Join me and challenge myself to uncover the fascinating stories of Hades, the god of the underworld. Hades, the Greek god of the underworld and lord of the dead, is one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented figures in mythology. Often viewed as a villain, a monstrous figure who delights in the suffering of others. But is this really an accurate portrayal of the god who rules the underworld? Let's start by addressing some of the biggest misconceptions surrounding Hades. And one of the main reasons for this skewed perception is the ways portrayed in popular culture. In many movies, TV shows, and even comic books, Hades is frequently depicted as a one-dimensional villain, a character obsessed with causing chaos and destruction. But as we'll soon discover, this couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, Hades is a complex and multifaceted character with a rich history and a deep sense of responsibility. He's not just a god of death. He's also a god of wealth, often referred to as Platon due to the riches buried beneath the earth, ruling over the treasures of the underworld. Hades is more than just a fearsome deity. He's a just and fair ruler, respected and even admired by his fellow gods. So, where does the idea of Hades being evil come from? In Greek mythology, Hades is often seen as a neutral figure, primarily concerned with maintaining the balance and order of the universe. His role in ensuring the proper functioning of life and death is one of duty and responsibility, not malice. Let's rewind and explore the origins of Hades. Born to the titans Cronus and Rhea, he was one of the original Olympian gods, alongside his brothers Zeus and Poseidon, after the defeat of their father Cronus and the Titans in a great cosmic battle. The three brothers drew lots to determine who would rule over different parts of the cosmos. Zeus became the ruler of the sky, Poseidon the ruler of the seas, and Hades, perhaps the least fortunate, drew the underworld. But rather than seeing this as a curse, Hades accepted his fate with dignity, ruling over his domain with a stern, yet fair hand. As the ruler of the underworld, Hades commanded respect from both the living and the dead. His domain, often referred to as Hades itself, was a realm where souls of the departed went after death. Unlike the burning, torturous version of hell seen in later traditions, the Greek underworld was a much more nuanced place. Here, Hades was surrounded by a host of iconic figures and creatures that helped maintain the order of the realm. There's Cerberus, the infamous three-headed dog who guarded the gates of the underworld, ensuring no one left without permission. Then there's Charon, the boatman who ferried souls across the river Styx, and the Erinyes or Furies, avenging spirits tasked with punishing those who dared disturb the natural order. Despite his dark and ominous associations, Hades was not devoid of emotion or humanity. One of the most famous and emotionally charged myths surrounding Hades is the story of his relationship with Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, goddess of agriculture. The story begins when Hades, struck by love, abducts Persephone and brings her to the underworld to become his queen. Demeter's grief over her daughter's abduction was so intense that she refused to allow crops to grow, plunging the world into famine. The gods intervened, and a compromise was made. Persephone would spend part of the year with her mother and part with her husband, Hades. This myth, while often seen as a dark tale of abduction, can also be seen as an exploration of the balance between life and death, growth and decay. Persephone's descent to the underworld symbolizes the winter months, while her return to Earth heralds the springtime and the rebirth of life. The myth of Persephone also reveals a more tender side of Hades. His love for her was deep and genuine, and while his method of obtaining her may be viewed as troubling by modern standards in the ancient world, it was seen as part of the inevitable cycle of life and death. The compromise reached between Hades and Zeus over Persephone's time on Earth also illustrates Hades' role as a negotiator and mediator among the gods, not simply a figure of terror. So, if Hades isn't the villain many stories make him out to be, what kind of god is he? Above all, Hades is a figure of immense power and responsibility. His role as the ruler of the dead is crucial to the functioning of the natural world. He ensures that the dead stay in their realm, and he governs the vast riches of the earth, from gold and silver to more symbolic forms of wealth. His fairness and dedication to his role earned him the respect of the other gods, and while he may not have been as beloved as his brothers Zeus and Poseidon, he was certainly not feared as an evil being. In fact, Hades is often described as a god who values justice, showing mercy to those who deserve it and punishing those who do not. One final myth worth mentioning is Hades' involvement in the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus, a mortal with a divine gift for music, descended into the underworld to plead for the return of his beloved Eurydice. So moved was Hades by Orpheus' music and devotion that he agreed to let Eurydice return to the world of the living, on one condition. Orpheus must not look back at her until they had both fully emerged from the underworld. Tragically, Orpheus failed to keep this promise, and Eurydice was lost to the underworld forever. This myth underscores Hades' sense of justice and mercy. He was willing to bend the rules for love, but once those rules were broken, he stood firm in upholding the natural order. In the end, Hades remains one of the most complex and compelling figures in Greek mythology. His role as the god of the underworld is one of great responsibility, not villainy. His relationships, his sense of duty, and his control over both death and wealth make him a multifaceted character worthy of exploration. He's not the monster many make him out to be, but rather a powerful and just ruler who maintains the delicate balance between life and death. Join me as we dive deep into the mysterious world of Norse mythology and challenge ourselves to unravel one of its most puzzling mysteries. Who really rules the dead? Is it the mighty Odin, king of the gods? Or perhaps Hel, the half-living, half-rotting daughter of Loki? Let's see if we can make sense of the afterlife in this fascinating mythological tradition. Norse mythology is rich with tales of gods, giants, and heroes, but few aspects of it are as fascinating or as complex as the afterlife. The ancient Norse believed that death was not an end, but rather a passage to another realm, and where a soul ended up after death depended greatly on the manner in which they died. However, as with many ancient mythologies, there's no one simple answer to the question of who rules the dead. In fact, if you've ever tried to figure out exactly what happens to a soul in the Norse afterlife, you've likely come across a mix of confusing and even contradictory answers. There are multiple realms of the dead, and each has its own ruler. But who is truly in charge? We know that the Norse believed in various afterlife destinations. Valhalla, a glorious hall presided over by Odin, where warriors slain in battle go to feast and prepare for Ragnarok. Then there's Helheim, ruled by the goddess Hel, where the souls of those who died of sickness, old age, or dishonor reside. And let's not forget Nibelheim, a cold and misty realm that overlaps with Helheim, often confused with Hel's domain but distinct in some ways. So, what is the relationship between these realms? Is Hel truly the ruler of all the dead, or is she only in charge of a portion of them? And where does Odin fit into all of this? These are questions that have puzzled scholars and enthusiasts alike. Let's start by focusing on Hel herself. Hel is one of the most intriguing figures in Norse mythology. She is the daughter of Loki, the trickster god, and her very appearance speaks volumes about her nature. Half of her body is that of a beautiful woman, while the other half is decayed and rotting, a stark reminder of death's dual nature, the line between life and decay. Hel rules over Helheim, the realm where those who die of illness, old age, or less honorable deaths are sent. But her role in the mythology is far more significant than just governing this one portion of the afterlife. Hel's realm is described as cold, dark, and shadowy, a place devoid of the glory that warriors find in Valhalla. Yet, For many of the dead, this is where their journey ends, and hell is the one who watches over them. Her domain, while bleak, is not one of torment, at least not in the traditional sense of hellfire and brimstone. Hell's realm represents the inevitable decay that comes with death. It's not a place of punishment, but rather a place of rest for those who have passed on without the honor of battle. Let's turn to Odin, the All-Father, King of the Aesir. Odin is known for many things. His wisdom, his role in war, his insatiable thirst for knowledge. But he's also connected to the dead. Odin chooses slain warriors to join him in Valhalla, the grand hall where they continue to fight and feast in preparation for the end of the world, Ragnarok. Valhalla is often depicted as a warrior's paradise. Those who die bravely in battle are selected by Odin's Valkyries and taken to this magnificent hall. Here, they feast and engage in combat during the day, and by night, their wounds are healed so they can do it all over again. It's a hero's afterlife, one reserved for the elite. But this raises an important question. What about those who don't fall in battle? Are they relegated to the cold clutches of hell? In a way, Odin and Hel seem to split the responsibilities of death. Odin gathers the brave and honorable, while Hel presides over the rest. But even that division is not so clear-cut. What makes things even more confusing is the overlap between Helheim and another realm, Niflheim. Niflheim is one of the 9 worlds in Norse cosmology, a land of mist and cold that predates even the creation of the gods. According to some accounts, Helheim lies within Niflheim, or at least near it. The 2 realms are often mentioned together, leading some to believe that Hel might have jurisdiction over more than just her Hall of Helheim. Niflheim, however, is described as a place of eternal cold and darkness, where souls wander aimlessly. Some sources suggest it's where the truly dishonored or damned souls reside, those who have committed unspeakable crimes or betrayed the gods. Does Hel control this realm too, or is Niflheim something separate? The lines blur, but one thing is clear. Hel's dominion over the dead is far-reaching, and if things weren't complicated enough, there's a third figure we need to consider, Freya. The goddess of love, fertility, and battle, has a special connection to the dead as well. She presides over a realm called Folkvang, and according to the mythology, she receives half of the warriors who die in battle, while Odin takes the other half to Valhalla. This raises another question. How does Freya fit into the overall picture? Is she a co-ruler of the dead, or does her realm only pertain to warriors? Once again, we're left with more questions than answers. So, who really rules the dead? The truth might be that there's no singular ruler. Norse mythology is, at its core, a tapestry of stories woven together, often with inconsistencies. The afterlife is no different. Hel certainly holds dominion over a large portion of the dead, particularly those who die from natural causes or dishonor. Odin, meanwhile, rules over Valhalla and the souls of warriors, while Freya shares in this responsibility. It seems that the afterlife in Norse mythology reflects the many facets of death itself. Death is not a one-size-fits-all experience, and neither is the afterlife. Each god or goddess oversees a different aspect of death, and each realm offers a different experience based on how a person lived and died. As we've seen, the concept of death in the afterlife in Norse mythology is incredibly complex. Hel, Odin, Freya, Niflheim, Helheim, Valhalla, all of these names and places form a mosaic of mythological beliefs about what happens after we die. And while we may never fully unravel the mystery of who truly rules the dead, one thing is clear. Death in Norse mythology is as multifaceted as life itself. Join me as I dive deep into the lore of Heimdall, the all-seeing guardian of Ragnarok, Together, let's uncover his secrets before the end of this video. In this journey, you will discover the remarkable Norse god known for his unparalleled senses and his critical role in the events of Ragnarok. Are you ready? Let's go! Heimdall's duty as the guardian of Asgard isn't just a walk in the park. It's a constant, vigilant task. Positioned at the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost, he stands ready to protect the realm from giants and other foes who threaten the peace of the gods. You see, being a watchman isn't just about keeping an eye out. It's about embodying a sense of duty that requires unyielding dedication and bravery. Heimdall isn't merely a passive observer. He's a fierce warrior, prepared to defend Asgard at a moment's notice. Imagine the pressure he faces. The giants are relentless, and the fate of Asgard hangs in the balance. Each day, Heimdall scans the horizon, his heart heavy with the weight of his responsibilities. But let's take a moment to reflect on the loneliness of his role. Imagine standing alone, day and night, watching the skies and the realms for signs of danger. It's a solitary existence, filled with long hours and a constant sense of alertness. Despite this isolation, Heimdall embraces his duty with pride. He knows that without him, Asgard could easily fall into chaos, vulnerable to its enemies. His unwavering vigilance speaks volumes about his character. Even as Ragnarok looms on the horizon, he remains steadfast, a pillar of strength and loyalty amidst uncertainty. The gods depend on him, and he's more than willing to bear that burden. Now, let's talk about Heimdall's incredible senses. Legends say that he can see for hundreds of miles, and his hearing is so sharp that he can hear the grass grow and the wool on sheep's backs. These abilities are not mere tales. They underscore his essential role as a guardian. Imagine being able to detect the slightest movements or sounds that others can't perceive. This godly perception makes him the perfect sentinel, alert to even the smallest threat from afar. But his senses are not just gifts from the gods. They symbolize his relentless dedication to his duties. Every whisper of wind, every shift in the landscape becomes a potential warning, and Heimdall takes his responsibilities seriously. Let's delve into Heimdall's origins, which are shrouded in mystery. Some myths suggest he's the son of 9 giantesses, each representing different aspects of nature. Others claim that he is a direct descendant of Odin, the All-Father. This complex lineage adds to his intrigue and highlights the idea that Heimdall embodies the connection between the divine and the natural world. His birth from 9 mothers also symbolizes his unique nature, suggesting a multifaceted identity that grants him extraordinary abilities. Each mother represents a different power, merging to create a guardian unlike any other. As we approach the epic events of Ragnarok, Heimdall's role becomes even more pivotal. He is the one who uncovers Loki's cunning plans to bring ruin upon the gods. Loki, known for his trickery and deceit, poses a significant threat. Heimdall's keen senses alert him to Loki's schemes, giving the gods a chance to react. However, Heimdall's efforts, while admirable, ultimately can't prevent the impending disaster. His actions do buy the gods some precious time, allowing them to prepare for the chaos that is about to unfold. This aspect of Heimdall's story emphasizes the theme of vigilance in the face of inevitable change. Even though he cannot stop the tide of fate, his awareness is crucial in navigating the challenges ahead. Now, let's not forget the Gilgamesh, a symbol of Heimdall's power and the harbinger of Ragnarok. The sound of this horn is a haunting signal, ringing out to announce that the end times have arrived. When Heimdall blows the Gjallarhorn, its deep, echoing tones resonate across the realms, a call to arms for the gods. Picture the scene. As the horn's mournful notes fill the air, the gods rally to Heimdall's side, preparing for the ultimate confrontation with their enemies. It's a moment thick with drama and tension, where every being in Asgard knows that the world is about to change forever. As chaos erupts and the forces of darkness descend upon Asgard, Heimdall faces Loki in a legendary duel. This clash of titans is nothing short of epic, each exchanging powerful blows, embodying the struggle between order and chaos. The tension escalates, with the fate of the gods hanging in the balance. Despite his bravery, the battle is fierce, and both warriors fight with unmatched ferocity. Heimdall is a force to be reckoned with, but Loki is cunning and resourceful. As they clash, it's clear that the outcome is uncertain. The struggle represents not just a physical battle, but a deeper conflict between loyalty and betrayal. In the end, it's Heimdall who emerges victorious, a testament to his strength and determination. But victory comes at a terrible cost. The world is ending, and the gods fall one by one. Even as the destruction unfolds, Heimdall stands tall, a symbol of unwavering loyalty amidst chaos. Heimdall's role in Norse mythology transcends that of a mere guardian. He embodies the spirit of resilience. Even as the world crumbles around him, he remains vigilant, dedicated to his purpose. He's a reminder that courage and loyalty can shine even in the darkest of times. His legacy is one of hope, a beacon for those who face their own challenges. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the world of one of the most fascinating gods of the Greek pantheon, Apollo. Known as the god of the sun, music, prophecy, healing, and even the arts, Apollo is an incredibly complex and powerful figure. But many of us only recognize him for his iconic association with music, overlooking the layers that make him so influential across many domains. So today, we're going to explore Apollo's many talents and uncover the mysteries that surround his duality, from his creative expressions in music and poetry to his authoritative roles in healing and prophecy. To understand Apollo, we need to look at him from multiple angles. Most notably, Apollo bridges the gap between the rational and mystical. On one side, he embodies reason, light, and prophecy, qualities that connect him to the sun and the clarity it brings. On the other side, Apollo is deeply tied to the emotional realms of music, poetry, and art, expressions of the soul's depth and complexity. This duality is what makes Apollo such a compelling figure, and it's this blend of characteristics that we'll be unraveling today. Let's start with Apollo's association with the sun. In the Greek pantheon, Apollo wasn't always linked to the sun. Originally, Helios, the Titan, was the sun god. But as Apollo's influence grew, he became more commonly associated with sunlight and the idea of enlightenment. The sun, in many ways, became symbolic of Apollo's power to bring clarity and vision through his light. He illuminated the world both literally and figuratively. As the god of prophecy, Apollo could see into the future, revealing truths that were otherwise hidden in the shadows. His famous Oracle of Delphi was a place where humans came seeking answers to their deepest questions, trusting in Apollo's power to unveil what lay ahead. Speaking of the Oracle of Delphi, let's explore Apollo's role as a prophet. The Oracle was one of the most important religious institutions in ancient Greece, and it functioned under Apollo's jurisdiction. The Pythia, the priestess of Delphi, would enter a trance-like state, supposedly channeling Apollo's divine wisdom to give prophecies. These prophecies shaped decisions from personal matters to matters of state, showing Apollo's profound influence in both the mortal and divine realms. Apollo was, in essence, a bridge between the gods and humans, a conduit for knowledge that transcended the ordinary. Now, while Apollo is often viewed as a bringer of light and wisdom, there's another side to his character, one that shows his capacity for punishment and justice. Take, for example, his rivalry with the monstrous serpent Python. After defeating Python, Apollo claimed Delphi as his own, establishing it as a center of his divine authority. The story of Python also reflects the balance Apollo maintained between chaos and order, a key element in understanding his character. Another one of Apollo's more famous stories is a tale of his love for Daphne. This myth reveals Apollo's more human qualities, his ability to feel deep emotions such as love and desire. Daphne, a nymph, was pursued by Apollo after being struck by one of Eros's arrows. However, Daphne prayed to escape Apollo's advances and was turned into a laurel tree. Heartbroken, Apollo declared the laurel tree sacred, forever entwining his love for Daphne with his connection to the natural world. This tale highlights not only Apollo's romantic longing, but also the idea that love, much like the sun's rays, can be both life-giving and unattainable. Let's shift now to Apollo's role in healing and medicine. Apollo was considered a god of healing, with his powers often invoked to protect against disease and plague. In some stories, Apollo's arrows spread plague, but he also had the power to take it away. His son, Asclepius, went on to become the god of medicine, showing that Apollo's influence extended into the health and well-being of the people. His dual role in both causing and curing diseases represents the ancient Greek understanding of balance in the cosmos, where life and death, sickness and health are part of a greater whole. Perhaps one of the most gripping stories involving Apollo's many talents is the tale of his musical contest with Marsyas, a satyr. Marsyas dared to challenge Apollo to a contest, and naturally, Apollo won. But the outcome was severe. Apollo punished Marsyas by flaying him alive, a gruesome display of his divine authority. This myth isn't just about Apollo's prowess in music. It's about the consequences of hubris and the reminder that even in art, justice and order must prevail. As we can see, Apollo's talents were vast and multifaceted. He wasn't just a god of music or prophecy. He was a figure that embodied the balance between light and darkness, life and death, art and reason. His influence in ancient Greek life spanned far beyond his lyre. He touched nearly every aspect of life, from the natural world to the human soul. In another famous myth, Apollo's powers of prophecy come into play when he foresees the downfall of Troy and the fates of its heroes. Here, we see how Apollo's wisdom and foresight influenced great events in human history. His ability to see beyond the present, coupled with his role as a healer and artist, makes him a truly unique figure among the gods. It's his ability to intertwine all these roles, prophet, healer, musician, and god of the sun, that makes Apollo an enduring character in mythology. Greek mythology is full of gods and goddesses with larger-than-life personalities, but one figure stands out for his wit, charm, and cunning tricks: Hermes. Known as the swift-footed messenger of the gods, Hermes is much more than just a divine courier. He is a god of travel, commerce, thieves, and a trickster at heart. In today's video, we'll dive into the fascinating world of Greek mythology to explore the complex character of Hermes, his major myths, and how his influence shaped the ancient Greek world. Although Hermes may not always be the first name that comes to mind when discussing Greek mythology, his impact on ancient Greek society was profound. Often depicted with wings on his sandals and helmet, Hermes was the embodiment of movement, guiding souls to the underworld, facilitating trade and commerce, and even orchestrating some of the most clever and mischievous acts in mythological history. In this 15-minute journey, we'll uncover the origins of Hermes, the intricate tales that surround him, and how his actions shape both gods and mortals alike. First, let's look at Hermes' diverse roles in Greek mythology. As the son of Zeus and Maia, Hermes was born into greatness. From the moment he was born, his mischievous nature was apparent. According to legend, he escaped his cradle as a newborn, embarking on an adventure that would define him as a trickster god. Along the way, he discovered a turtle shell and created the first lyre, an instrument that would play an important role in his future dealings with the gods. But Hermes was far more than just a playful prankster. He was also the god of commerce and trade, revered by merchants who sought his favor for successful journeys and profitable deals. Ancient Greeks would offer sacrifices to Hermes before embarking on trade missions, hoping his guidance would lead them to wealth and fortune. His association with thieves is no coincidence either. Hermes' wit and cunning made him a god who could outsmart even the most powerful deities. One of Hermes' most important roles was his duty as a psychopomp, a guide for souls making their way to the afterlife. In this role, Hermes escorted the souls of the dead to the underworld, leading them to the river Styx where they would be ferried to their eternal resting place. This essential duty highlights Hermes' position as a mediator between the mortal and divine realms. He was the only god able to traverse freely between Mount Olympus, the mortal world, and the underworld, making him an indispensable figure in Greek mythology. Perhaps one of Hermes' most famous myths is the tale of how he stole Apollo's sacred cattle. As a mere infant, Hermes used his quick wit to steal a herd of cattle from Apollo and hide them in a cave, cleverly disguising his tracks. When Apollo discovered the theft, he confronted Hermes, who initially denied the accusation. However, after a series of negotiations and Hermes' offering of the lyre he had created from the turtle shell, the two gods reached an agreement. This story not only illustrates Hermes' skill as a master of deception, but also emphasizes his ability to resolve conflicts through charm and diplomacy. Hermes also plays a critical role in the myth of Persephone and Demeter, one of the most well-known stories in Greek mythology. After Hades abducted Persephone and brought her to the underworld, her mother Demeter fell into deep sorrow, refusing to let crops grow. Desperate to restore balance to the world, Zeus sent Hermes to the underworld to negotiate Persephone's return. With his silver-tongued diplomacy, Hermes convinced Hades to release Persephone, but not before she ate the pomegranate seeds that bound her to the underworld for part of the year. This myth showcases Hermes' cunning nature and his unique ability to navigate delicate situations. Another notable myth involving Hermes is his role in aiding the hero Odysseus. On Odysseus' journey home after the Trojan War, Hermes intervened when Odysseus and his crew landed on the island of Circe, a powerful sorceress who had the ability to turn men into animals. To protect Odysseus from Circe's magic, Hermes gave him a magical herb called moly, allowing him to resist her enchantments. This myth reveals Hermes' protective side and his willingness to help mortals in their time of need. As the messenger of the gods, Hermes enjoyed a close relationship with his father, Zeus. He was often sent by Zeus to deliver important messages or to mediate disputes between the gods. Hermes' loyalty and wit made him one of Zeus' most trusted allies. Despite his reputation as a trickster, Hermes was always dependable when it came to his duties as a divine messenger, ensuring that the will of Zeus was carried out efficiently. Hermes' influence wasn't limited to mythological stories. His impact permeated ancient Greek culture. As the god of communication, he symbolized the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and goods. In fact, his name is the root of the word hermeneutics, the theory of interpretation. His role as a bridge between different realms, whether between mortals and gods, life and death, or trade routes, made him a vital figure in the lives of ancient Greeks. In conclusion, Hermes stands out as one of the most fascinating figures in Greek mythology. His dual nature as both a helpful guide and a cunning trickster makes him a complex and intriguing character. Whether he's escorting souls to the underworld, aiding heroes on their journeys, or pulling off daring acts of theft, Hermes embodies the idea of movement, adaptability, and cleverness. Join me as we explore one of the most poignant and heart-wrenching myths in history, the tragic tale of Orpheus, a legendary musician whose melodies were so powerful they could sway even the gods of the underworld. His story is not just about music, but about love, loss, and the overwhelming human desire to defy death itself. In this video, we'll dive deep into Orpheus's journey to rescue his beloved Eurydice, unravel the meaning behind this myth, and see if we can recreate the same magic that once charmed even Hades. Orpheus was no ordinary musician. Born to Calliope, the muse of epic poetry, and Apollo, the god of music and light, he was destined for greatness. From a young age, Orpheus was renowned for his musical talent. His lyre was not merely an instrument, but a vessel for emotions so deep, so powerful, that they could tame wild beasts, make rivers pause, and even cause mountains to tremble. Music was his language, and through it, he communicated with the world in ways that words could never express. But as incredible as his music was, it wasn't enough to protect him from the cruelties of fate. Orpheus fell deeply in love with Eurydice, a beautiful nymph, and their wedding was a day filled with joy and celebration. Yet, as in many tragic tales, happiness was fleeting. Shortly after their marriage, while Eurydice was walking through a meadow, she was bitten by a venomous snake and died almost instantly. Orpheus was devastated. His grief knew no bounds, and the world itself seemed to mourn with him as he played sorrowful melodies in his mourning. Unable to accept his loss, Orpheus made the decision that would seal his fate. He would descend into the underworld, the realm of the dead, to retrieve his wife. This was a journey no mortal had ever returned from. But Orpheus's love for Eurydice was stronger than his fear of death. The underworld was a place of shadows, darkness, and despair, ruled by Hades, the stern god of the dead, and his queen, Persephone. But as Orpheus descended into this grim and terrifying realm, he had one weapon that no one could resist: his music. With each step deeper into the land of the dead, Orpheus strummed his lyre and sang of his love and loss, his melodies echoing through the caverns of the underworld. First, he encountered Charon, the cold, unfeeling ferryman who carried souls across the river Styx. It was said that no amount of gold or pleading could move Charon, but when Orpheus began to play, something incredible happened. The dark waters stilled, and Charon, usually emotionless, was overwhelmed by the beauty of the music. Moved to compassion, Charon agreed to ferry Orpheus across without payment, breaking the ancient laws of the underworld. Orpheus's journey wasn't over. As he walked deeper, his music continued to resonate through the land of the dead, calming the spirits and even taming the monstrous Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld. His melodies were more than just notes. They were a reflection of his soul, filled with hope, love, and sorrow. Finally, Orpheus stood before the thrones of Hades and Persephone, his heart heavy with longing. He played the most sorrowful, haunting music he had ever composed, pouring every ounce of his grief into the strings of his lyre. As the notes filled the throne room, a miracle occurred. Hades, the god who presided over death and despair, was moved to tears. His queen, Persephone, was equally enchanted, and together they granted Orpheus a rare gift. Eurydice would be allowed to return to the world of the living, but there was one condition. Orpheus must not look back at her until they had both reached the surface. With renewed hope, Orpheus began the journey back to the land of the living, Eurydice following close behind him. Yet as they climbed the long and treacherous path, doubt began to creep into Orpheus's mind. Could this be real? Was Eurydice truly behind him, or had Hades deceived him? With each step, the temptation to look back grew stronger. His love, His need to see her face just one more time overwhelmed him, and just as they were about to step into the sunlight, Orpheus turned to look. In that instant, Eurydice was pulled back into the shadows, forever lost to him. Orpheus could only watch in horror as his beloved disappeared into the depths of the underworld once more, this time never to return. The grief that followed was unbearable, and Orpheus wandered the earth in sorrow, playing mournful tunes until the day he died, still longing for the one he could never bring back. Orpheus's story isn't just about love. It's about the fragility of hope and the consequences of doubt. It's a reminder of the limits of human power. Even when armed with the most incredible gifts, his journey to the underworld is a reflection of our deepest fears. The fear of losing the ones we love, the fear of the unknown, and the fear that our efforts, no matter how grand, may not always be enough. But the myth of Orpheus also speaks to the power of art and music to transcend even the boundaries of life and death. His music was able to touch the hearts of gods and spirits, something no other mortal could achieve. It's a testament to the enduring power of creativity, emotion, and the human spirit. To this day, Orpheus's legacy lives on, inspiring countless artists, musicians, and storytellers. And that's the tragic tale of Orpheus. Join me as we dive into the wild world of Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness. Together, we'll uncover the secrets of this enigmatic figure, exploring his origins, significance, and the many aspects of his character that continue to fascinate us today. While many of the Olympian gods represent order, civilization, and restraint, Dionysus stands out as a figure embodying chaos and liberation. His influence touches on the untamable aspects of nature and human experience, making him an anomaly among his fellow gods. Dionysus represents the unpredictability of life, the primal, boundary-breaking forces that both give us joy and, at times, push us to the edge of madness. The story of Dionysus is a tale of duality. On the one hand, he brings celebration, freedom, and the intoxicating pleasures of wine. On the other, he is a symbol of wildness, excess, and the dangers of losing control. His mythology reminds us that while structure and order are necessary for society, chaos and unpredictability are essential parts of life. They're the forces that keep us human, allowing us to express ourselves, break free from constraints, and experience moments of pure ecstasy. Dionysus's existence is a reminder that even the most structured societies need unbridled expression and creativity to truly thrive. Let's start with his unusual origins. Dionysus's birth is nothing short of extraordinary. Born from Zeus's thigh after his mother, Semele, perished in a fiery encounter with the king of the gods, Dionysus's very existence defies traditional norms. This bizarre birth foreshadows his role as the god who exists outside societal conventions. He grew up away from Olympus, raised by nymphs and tutored in the wild, shaping him into a deity that represents the raw, untamed aspects of nature and the human soul. Dionysus was a god who defied tradition and pushed boundaries, and his worship reflected the spirit of rebellion. Followers of Dionysus, known as the Bacchae or Maenads, engaged in frenzied, ecstatic rituals in his honor. These rituals often involved music, dance, and drinking wine, activities that encourage a release from societal norms and an embrace of ecstatic joy. But this freedom came with a cost. As the line between pleasure and chaos is thin, Dionysian festivals could descend into madness, with revelers losing control and unleashing destructive impulses. This reflects the dual nature of the god himself, a figure of both celebration and chaos, ecstasy and madness. Perhaps the most famous myth surrounding Dionysus is that of the Bacchae, where he visits Thebes and clashes with its ruler, King Pentheus. Pentheus refuses to acknowledge Dionysus as a god, mocking his wild rituals and the liberating ecstasies they bring. In response, Dionysus drives the women of Thebes into a frenzy, leading them to the mountains where they perform their ecstatic rites. When Pentheus attempts to spy on them, disguised as a woman, he is torn apart by the Bacchae in a gruesome act of madness. This story serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of denying the power of Dionysus, both in terms of rejecting the forces of nature and the potential consequences of suppressing human desires. The story of the Bacchae is not just a cautionary tale about denying the divine. It's a reflection of the tensions we all face in our own lives. Dionysus's myth challenges us to consider how we balance the forces of order and chaos, responsibility and freedom. Too much structure can stifle our creativity and passion, but too much indulgence can lead to destruction and madness. Dionysus teaches us that while it's important to embrace pleasure and freedom, we must also be mindful of the consequences of excess. But Dionysus is more than just a god of wild revelry. He also represents transformation and renewal. His myths are filled with themes of rebirth, most notably his ability to bring life to the vine, which in turn produces wine, a substance that symbolizes both joy and intoxication. This power of transformation is key to understanding his significance in ancient Greek religion. Wine, after all, is a drink that can bring pleasure and connection, but it can also lead to chaos and violence if consumed without moderation. Dionysus, therefore, embodies the full spectrum of human experience, from the heights of joy to the depths of despair. Interestingly, Dionysus also had a deep connection to the arts. As the patron god of theater, he inspired creativity and self-expression, especially through tragedy. The ancient Greek theater was closely linked to Dionysian worship, with dramatic performances originally being part of the festivals held in his honor. The themes of many Greek tragedies, conflict between order and chaos, the consequences of hubris, and the complexity of human emotions, reflect the essence of Dionysus's nature. He is the god who allows us to confront the darkness within ourselves, to express the emotions we often hide, and to find catharsis through art. Dionysus's mythology also extends beyond Greece, influencing various aspects of ancient culture. He was worshipped throughout the Mediterranean, and his cult spread to Rome, where he was known as Bacchus. His appeal crossed cultural boundaries, drawing in followers from all walks of life, from peasants to aristocrats. This widespread worship further highlights the universal human need for release from the constraints of everyday life. As we reflect on Dionysus' legacy, it's clear that he's more than just a god of wine and revelry. He represents the unpredictable forces that shape our lives, the emotions we suppress, the desires we can't control, and the transformative power of art and creativity. Dionysus's myth speaks to the timeless human struggle to balance pleasure and responsibility, joy and madness, freedom and chaos. In Hephaestus, the master craftsman of the gods, stands as a testament to resilience and creativity amidst adversity. When we think of the gods of Olympus, images of power, beauty, and grandeur typically come to mind. Zeus with his mighty thunderbolts, Aphrodite's unmatched allure, and Apollo's radiance as the god of the sun all fit this ideal. Yet, among the Olympians, one god diverged from this image, not for his charm or strength, but for his remarkable ability to turn hardships into triumphs. That god is Hephaestus, the embodiment of artistry forged from struggle. Born to Zeus, the king of the gods, and Hera, the queen of Olympus, Hephaestus's arrival was far from celebrated. Unlike his siblings, he was born with a physical disability, a limp that set him apart and led to rejection. In some myths, it's said that Hera, dismayed by her son's imperfections, cast him from Olympus in disgust. Imagine the profound pain of being rejected by one's own family for something beyond one's control. Hephaestus's early life was marked by this trauma. Exiled from the heights of Olympus and forced to navigate a world that viewed him as flawed. However, his story did not end in despair. Instead of succumbing to his fate, Hephaestus found solace and strength in his craft. Raised in exile, he discovered the transformative power of fire and the art of blacksmithing. He learned to shape metal, bending it to his will, creating magnificent works that would later define his legacy. The very fire that others deemed destructive became his source of power and inspiration. In many ways, Hephaestus symbolizes resilience, the ability to take the flames of adversity and forge something beautiful from them. One of the most fascinating aspects of Hephaestus's narrative is his dual nature. He is a god of creation, fashioning some of the most powerful and stunning objects in Greek mythology. Yet, he is also a tragic figure, grappling with personal struggles and heartaches that make him relatable. Unlike gods like Apollo or Ares who revel in their perfection, Hephaestus's imperfections add depth to his character, making him a compelling figure among the pantheon. So, what did Hephaestus create? His masterpieces were many and legendary. Perhaps the most famous of his works are the thunderbolts he forged for his father, Zeus. These were not mere weapons. They were bolts of divine power, capable of shaking the very foundations of the earth. Hephaestus also crafted the armor of Achilles, one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. This armor was not only functional, but also a work of art, imbued with a divine touch that rendered Achilles nearly invincible. Hephaestus's creativity extended beyond weapons of war. He is credited with designing automata, or mechanical beings, long before the concept of robots existed. These golden handmaidens, created to assist him in his forge, moved and acted with lifelike precision, fascinating both gods and mortals alike. Imagine the wonder of ancient Greeks, hearing tales of these living machines, fashioned by a god capable of turning raw materials into something seemingly alive. In essence, Hephaestus was not just a blacksmith. He was an inventor, a visionary ahead of his time, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Yet, life as the god of the forge came with its own challenges. His marriage to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, was fraught with difficulties. While Hephaestus adored his wife, her heart belonged to another, Ares, the god of war. Their affair became one of the great scandals of Olympus, and despite his brilliance, Hephaestus found himself betrayed. However, rather than responding with violence or rage, he used his craft to outwit the lovers, creating an intricately woven golden net to ensnare them. When the net was sprung, it captured Aphrodite and Ares in a humiliating display for all the gods to see. The story of Hephaestus and Aphrodite serves as a reminder that even the gods were not immune to the complexities of love and betrayal. More importantly, it illustrates that Hephaestus, despite his personal heartbreak, never let it interfere with his work. He continued to create, build, and innovate. His dedication eventually earned him the respect he deserved. When the gods of Olympus faced the giants in war, it was Hephaestus's weapons that provided the edge they needed. He forged armor, shields, and weapons of such extraordinary quality that the gods could not ignore his true worth. No longer was he the outcast or misfit. He became the savior of Olympus, a god whose skills rivaled those of even the greatest warriors. Beyond his role as a craftsman and creator, Hephaestus symbolizes something deeper: the transformative power of fire. Fire is often seen as a destructive force, capable of reducing everything to ashes. Yet in Hephaestus's hands, it became a tool for creation and rebirth, symbolizing the ability to take raw materials and shape them into something greater. This is why Hephaestus's story resonates so strongly even today. His journey reflects our own capacity to transform adversity into beauty, to take the heat of our struggles and create something lasting. We can all learn from Hephaestus, whether facing rejection, enduring personal struggles, or confronting seemingly insurmountable obstacles. We all possess the potential to create something beautiful from the fires of our experiences. Hephaestus's life stands as a testament to perseverance, creativity, and resilience. His imperfections did not define him. His creations did. As we reflect on Hephaestus's journey, let's also consider the significance of craftsmanship and artistry in our lives. Hephaestus reminds us that true greatness lies not in perfection, but in the act of creating, building, and shaping the world around us, even in the face of adversity. Join me as we explore the tale of Balder, the beloved god of light, and how his tragic death set the stage for Ragnarok, the Norse apocalypse. In a world where gods wield immense power, even they cannot escape fate's cruel design. But what happens when the death of one god is the spark that ignites the end of everything? In the vast expanse of Norse mythology, Balder stands out as a figure of purity, light, and joy. He is the son of Odin, the Allfather, and Frigg, the goddess of motherhood and love. Balder's presence brought radiance to Asgard, the realm of the gods, and his kindness endeared him to both gods and mortals alike. His beauty and brilliance were unmatched, and he was seen as a symbol of innocence and peace in a pantheon often fraught with chaos and conflict. However, even the brightest light casts a shadow, and Balder's fate was intertwined with a prophecy of doom. According to the seers, Balder's death would be the catalyst that triggers Ragnarok, the final battle that would bring destruction to the gods and the cosmos. But how could the demise of this shining deity be possible? His invulnerability, granted by his mother Frigg, who had made everything in existence swear never to harm her son, seemed to assure his safety. Everything, that is, except for one small, seemingly insignificant object, mistletoe. The serenity of Balder's life was shattered by the trickster god Loki, whose mischief often turned to malevolence. As Balder's fame and beauty grew, so did Loki's jealousy. The gods, confident in Balder's supposed invulnerability, made sport of throwing objects at him, marveling at how nothing could harm him. Stones, weapons, and even magic bounced harmlessly off his skin. It was a game of trust, a display of divine favor, until Loki intervened. Loki, ever the schemer, discovered the one loophole in Frigg's protective vow. She had overlooked mistletoe, believing it too small and insignificant to be a threat. Seizing upon this weakness, Loki fashioned a spear from the plant and sought out Balder's blind brother, Hoder. In a twisted act of manipulation, Loki guided Hoder's hand, tricking him into hurling the mistletoe spear at his own brother. The spear struck true. As it pierced Balder's chest, the impossible became reality. The god of light fell. In an instant, Asgard was thrown into chaos. The gods watched in horror as Balder, once the embodiment of life and joy, lay motionless. The grief was overwhelming. Even the earth itself mourned, and the once bright realm of the gods seemed cloaked in darkness. Frigg, in her anguish, begged the gods to journey to Hel, the underworld, and plead for Balder's return. Hermod, one of Odin's sons, undertook the perilous journey to Hel's domain. There, he met the death goddess Hel, who agreed to release Balder, on one condition: that all things in existence weep for him. If even one being refused to mourn, Balder would remain among the dead. Word spread across the 9 worlds, and all beings, gods, mortals, and even the stones and trees wept for Balder. Yet one figure, disguised as an old giantess, refused. This figure was Loki in disguise, ensuring that Balder would not return to the living. Balder's fate was sealed, and with it, the fate of the gods. The death of Balder was not just the loss of a beloved god. It was a turning point in the cosmic order. His passing signified the unraveling of the world's stability. The gods, already shaken by grief, now understood that Ragnarok was inevitable. Balder's death was the first in a series of events that would lead to the twilight of the gods, the great battle in which the world would be consumed by fire and chaos. With Balder gone, the light in Asgard had dimmed, and the gods could feel the creeping shadow of Ragnarok drawing near. As Frigg wept for her son, Odin, too, was filled with dread. Not only had he lost his beloved son, but he also knew that Balder's demise would lead to his own doom, along with that of the other gods. The prophecy foretold that Balder's death was the first in a chain of events that would culminate in the destruction of Asgard, the fall of Odin, Thor, and the other gods, and the end of the world. Balder's death is more than a tragic loss. It's a symbol of the inevitable end of innocence and peace. It signals that even in the realm of the gods, no one can escape fate. His demise marks the beginning of the end, a necessary step towards the destruction and rebirth that Ragnarok promises. Balder's role in Norse mythology is that of a sacrificial figure. His death is a price for a new beginning, though it comes at the cost of the old world's annihilation. In the story of Balder, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the inevitability of change. Even in a world of gods and giants, light can be extinguished and joy can turn to sorrow. Yet, from this darkness, Norse mythology also promises a rebirth, a new world that will rise from the ashes of Ragnarok. Balder, though gone, represents hope for this new world, as he is prophesied to return after the great battle, bringing with him the light of a new age. What do you think of Balder's tragic fate? Does his death symbolize more than just the end of an era? Let me know in the comments below.
Join me as we dive deep into the ancient tales of Norse mythology and uncover the truth about one of the most powerful and complex figures in Asgard, Frigg, the Queen of the Gods. Often overshadowed by her husband Odin and her son Balder, Frigg is a figure of wisdom, foresight, and immense power. But who is she really, and why is her role so essential in the fabric of Asgard? Let's explore her story and find out what makes Frigg not just a queen but a force of destiny itself. Frigg, the Queen of Asgard, is a name that doesn't always come to mind immediately when discussing Norse mythology. But don't let that fool you. Frigg is one of the most important deities in the Norse pantheon. As the wife of Odin and the mother of Balder, she stands at the heart of Asgard, a beacon of wisdom, foresight, and strength. Many see her as just Odin's wife, but there's much more to her than meets the eye. Today we'll uncover the layers of her character, her power, and the vital role she plays in Norse mythology. Frigg's powers are not flashy, but they are formidable. She possesses the gift of foresight, an ability so potent that she knows the fate of all gods and mortals. Yet she rarely shares this knowledge. Why? Because, as the goddess of fate, she understands the delicate balance that must be maintained in the cosmic order. Frigg's foresight is a central aspect of her identity, and it's one that connects her to the underlying threads of destiny that govern both the 9 realms and the lives of gods and mortals. But that's not all. Frigg is also deeply skilled in the magic of Seir, a form of sorcery linked to prophecy and fate. This makes her one of the most powerful magic users in Norse mythology. It's believed that she can shape the destinies of others, even altering the outcomes of future events. While she doesn't wield weapons like the warriors of Asgard, her wisdom and magic are her greatest strengths. Frigg is not only a figure of power, but also of protection. As the goddess associated with marriage, motherhood, and family, she safeguards the bonds that unite households. Her influence extends to protecting homes and marriages, ensuring the sanctity of these relationships across the realms. She's a guardian of domestic life, nurturing the ties that hold Asgard's royal family together. Her role as protector is most famously demonstrated in her efforts to shield her beloved son, Balder, from his foretold death. After learning of his impending doom through her foresight, Frigg took extraordinary measures to protect him. She traveled to every living thing in the 9 realms, asking each to vow not to harm Balder. Everything agreed except for one mistletoe, which was overlooked. It was this small, seemingly harmless plant that would later be Balder's undoing. The story of Balder's death is perhaps the most emotional and tragic in all of Norse mythology, and it centers around Frigg's deep love for her son. Despite all her efforts, fate would not be denied. The trickster god Loki found the mistletoe and fashioned it into a weapon, which he used to orchestrate Balder's death. The grief that Frigg experienced after losing her son is beyond measure. Even as she knew it was inevitable, her sorrow was immense. Her pain reflects the depths of her maternal instinct. She was not just a queen or a goddess, but a mother, and her suffering reminds us of the raw human emotions that even the gods endure. Frigg's attempts to resurrect Balder are equally heartbreaking. She sent messengers to Hel, the realm of the dead, begging for Balder's return. Hel agreed, but on one condition: if every living thing in the 9 realms mourned for Balder, he would be allowed to return to the land of the living. And so it was. Everything mourned save for one figure in disguise, again Loki. This thwarted her hopes, showing once more how even the most powerful forces can be outwitted by the trickery of fate. Frigg's marriage to Odin is another fascinating aspect of her character. While Odin is often depicted as the all-knowing, all-powerful ruler, Frigg is no mere consort. In many myths, she's shown as his equal, if not his superior in some ways. It's said that Frigg has access to knowledge even Odin does not, particularly when it comes to matters of fate. There are moments when her silence speaks volumes. Her choice not to reveal certain truths about the future, the weight of her wisdom and restraint. She and Odin represent the balance of power between foresight and action, wisdom and might. Their relationship is also a portrayal of the complexities of love and partnership. Frigg, while supportive of Odin, is also independent and powerful in her own right. Their bond represents both love and respect, as well as the occasional conflict between them over their different approaches to the same end, maintaining balance in the cosmos. Frigg's role in Norse mythology can be compared to other divine mother figures across cultures. In Greek mythology we have Hera, the queen of the gods and protector of marriage, much like Frigg. However, where Hera is often vengeful and focused on maintaining her status, Frigg is more compassionate and wise, using her powers for the greater good. In Egyptian mythology, Isis, the mother of Horus, shares Frigg's deep maternal love and protective instincts. Both Frigg and Isis try to protect their sons from harm, though ultimately face the reality of their fates. These comparisons highlight the universal archetype of the Divine Mother, a figure of protection, wisdom, and deep emotional strength. So who is Frigg truly? She's more than just the wife of Odin, more than a queen sitting quietly on the throne of Asgard. She is a goddess of immense power, one who sees the threads of fate, who protects the sanctity of family and marriage, and who suffers the same profound grief that any mother might. Frigg's strength is not just in her magic or foresight, but in her resilience, her wisdom, and her capacity to endure, even in the face of inevitable tragedy. Frigg's role as the heart of Asgard cannot be overstated, and her story deserves to be told more often. So the next time we think of the great gods of Norse mythology, let's not forget Frigg, the wise queen who silently shapes the fates of all around her.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to stand against an unstoppable force, knowing full well it could cost you everything? Tyr, the one-handed god of war and justice, faced this exact challenge when he confronted the fearsome wolf Fenrir. In a moment of ultimate sacrifice, he gave up more than just a hand. He risked the fate of the cosmos to protect the gods and all of creation. Join me as I take on the challenge of recreating Tyr's brave stand against the beast Fenrir. Can I match his legendary courage? Let's dive into this epic tale. In Norse mythology, Tyr stands out as a figure of immense bravery, justice, and sacrifice. His most famous act, sacrificing his hand to bind Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, is a powerful story about courage and duty. But who exactly was Tyr, and why was his role in binding Fenrir so important? To understand his story, we must first explore the nature of Fenrir and the threat he posed to the gods and the world itself. Fenrir wasn't just any wolf. He was a creature foretold to play a devastating role in Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world. According to the myths, Fenrir would break free of his bonds and devour the sun, bringing about the downfall of the gods and plunging the world into chaos. From his birth, Fenrir's strength and size grew at an alarming rate. The gods, recognizing the threat, knew they had to act swiftly before the wolf became unstoppable. But binding Fenrir wasn't easy. The gods attempted multiple times to restrain him, only to fail. Each time, Fenrir's power increased and their anxiety deepened. They feared what he would become if they didn't stop him soon. It was clear that ordinary means were not enough to contain the beast, and drastic measures were needed. Fenrir was not only powerful but cunning, and he demanded assurances before he would allow any further attempts to bind him. This is where Tyr's role became crucial. Tyr was known as a god of war, justice, and law. Unlike other gods who relied on trickery or brute strength, Tyr stood as a paragon of honor and courage. His relationship with Fenrir was complex. Despite the growing danger, Tyr had once been one of the few gods who dared to interact with Fenrir, even feeding him as the wolf grew larger. This connection made Tyr the ideal candidate for what was to come. When the gods devised a plan to bind Fenrir, using a magical chain forged by the dwarves, they knew they needed to trick him into believing that the chain was harmless. Fenrir, suspicious as always, demanded that one of the gods place their hand in his mouth as a guarantee that they would release him if the chain failed. None of the gods dared to volunteer, none except Tyr. This moment is where Tyr's legend truly shines. Knowing full well that the gods had no intention of releasing Fenrir once bound, Tyr understood the gravity of his decision. He wasn't just putting his hand on the line. He was placing himself directly in the path of the wolf's wrath. But for Tyr, the needs of the cosmos outweighed his personal safety. As Tyr approached Fenrir, the tension was palpable. The other gods watched in anxious silence, knowing that failure meant certain doom. Tyr, however, remained calm, steady in his resolve. He placed his hand in Fenrir's mouth, a symbol of his trust and the ultimate show of courage. As the magical chain tightened and Fenrir realized he had been deceived, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand. But in that moment of pain and loss, Tyr achieved victory. Fenrir was bound, and the gods were safe, at least for the time being. Tyr's sacrifice became a turning point in the struggle between the gods and the forces of chaos. His bravery in the face of certain injuries showed the gods what it truly meant to act with honor. After losing his hand, Tyr's role in later myths began to diminish. Other gods, like Odin and Thor, took center stage in the narratives of Norse mythology. But Tyr's legacy as a symbol of justice, sacrifice, and courage remained. Even though his story became less prominent, his earlier importance in Germanic tradition cannot be understated. In fact, his influence was so significant that his name is still remembered today. Tuesday, or Tyr's Day, is named in his honor. What makes Tyr's story so timeless is that it taps into the universal themes of bravery, sacrifice, and duty. His willingness to give up his hand for the greater good speaks to the human condition. The idea that sometimes personal loss is necessary to achieve a larger purpose. In this way, Tyr's myth has endured through the centuries, resonating with audiences who recognize the value of standing up for what is right, even in the face of danger. Tyr's confrontation with Fenrir is more than just a story about a god losing his hand to a wolf. It's about the triumph of courage over fear, duty over selfishness, and justice over chaos. The act of putting oneself in harm's way to protect others is something we still admire today. Tyr's actions inspire us to think about what we are willing to sacrifice for the greater good, and how we can draw on our own inner strength when faced with seemingly impossible challenges. Tyr's sacrifice to bind Fenrir is a defining moment in Norse mythology, one that highlights the values of bravery, justice, and selflessness. While other gods may have taken the spotlight in later stories, Tyr's role as a protector and upholder of law makes him a true hero in the Norse pantheon. His legacy continues to inspire us to confront our own fears and challenges with the same unyielding courage. In Norse mythology, creation begins in chaos, the vast, empty void known as Ginnungagap, where fire from the realm of Muspelheim and ice from Niflheim collide to form the first being, Ymir. He was no ordinary being but a massive, primordial giant, embodying the untamed forces of the cosmos. From his creation, Ymir's story unfolds into one of both beauty and destruction, where his body becomes the foundation of the world. Welcome to a journey through this ancient myth as we explore how Ymir's life and death created the 9 worlds of Norse mythology and shaped the universe as we know it. Imagine the world before time existed, a vast nothingness, Ginnungagap, lying between 2 elemental realms. On one side, the fiery Muspelheim burns with heat and energy. On the other, the frozen wasteland of Niflheim sits, full of frost and ice. In this strange, infinite gap, sparks of fire met with the chill of ice, and from that meeting, Ymir emerged. This was the birth of the first giant, a being of tremendous size and power, the embodiment of the chaos and potential of the universe. But Ymir was not alone for long. From his sweat, new life formed. The race of frost giants, beings of immense strength who would later oppose the gods. This strange act of creation, born directly from Ymir's own body, already hints at the vital role his physical form would play in shaping the world. From the very beginning, Ymir's existence is tied to creation, even if he does not yet realize it. As Ymir lived, he was nourished by the great cow, Audhumla, who also emerged from the frozen void. The cow's milk sustained Ymir, while Audhumla herself found nourishment by licking the salty ice. This act revealed Buri, the ancestor of the gods, who later fathered Bor, and Bor would become the father of Odin, Vili, and Ve, the 3 gods destined to shape the fate of the world. It is here that the myth takes a dark and decisive turn. Odin, Vili, and Ve, sensing the potential to create order from the chaos of Ymir's existence, decide to kill the giant. It may seem brutal, but this act is the key moment in the creation of the world. Ymir, in his death, becomes the very fabric of the universe. His flesh becomes the earth, his bones the mountains, his blood the seas, his hair the trees, and his skull the sky. The gods even take Ymir's brains and scatter them across the sky, forming clouds. From the destruction of Ymir comes the structure of the cosmos, and from chaos comes order. But let's pause for a moment. Think about the sheer scale of this transformation. In Norse mythology, the world we live in isn't simply an object or a collection of natural elements. It's the body of a giant. Every mountain you climb, every ocean you sail across, every cloud in the sky is a piece of Ymir. His body is the earth beneath our feet, and his blood is the water we drink. It's a staggering image, one that illustrates how the physical world is deeply connected to the beings who created it. This idea of giants playing a role in creation is not unique to Norse mythology. Across cultures, giants have been portrayed as creators, shapers of landscapes, and embodiments of natural forces. Their massive size and strength often symbolize their ability to shape the world, sometimes as creators, other times as forces of chaos. In many myths, they represent the raw, untamed power of nature, forces that the gods must tame or destroy to bring about order. Take the story of the Greek Titan Atlas, for example. After the Titans were defeated by the Olympian gods, Atlas was punished by being forced to hold up the heavens. Though not a creator in the same sense as Ymir, Atlas is a giant who bears the weight of the cosmos on his shoulders, a symbol of the immense responsibility and power that giants often hold in mythology. In this way, giants are more than just large, destructive beings. They are the foundations of the universe itself. Returning to Ymir, his death leads not only to the creation of the physical world, but also to the birth of the 9 worlds in Norse mythology. The gods place Ymir's body in the center of the universe, and from it, they create the different realms. Asgard, the home of the gods. Midgard, the realm of humans. Jotunheim, the land of the giants, and several others, each with its own unique role in the cosmic order. The 9 worlds are connected by Yggdrasil, the world tree, another symbol of the interconnectedness of all things in Norse cosmology. This grand image of the universe, with Ymir's body at its heart, emphasizes how creation in Norse myth is a process of transformation, of turning chaos into cosmos. Yet, even as Ymir's body becomes the foundation of the universe, the story of giants and gods does not end with his death. The frost giants, Ymir's descendants, remain a powerful force in the world, constantly clashing with the gods. The creation of the world does not bring an end to chaos, but rather sets the stage for an ongoing battle between order and disorder, between the gods and the giants. This conflict is central to Norse mythology, culminating in Ragnarok, the final battle in which the world will once again be consumed by chaos. The story of Ymir is a reflection of this constant tension between creation and destruction, between order and chaos. His life begins in the chaotic void of Ginnungagap, and his death brings about the creation of the world. But even in death, Ymir's legacy lives on through the giants who continue to challenge the gods, and through the very earth, sea, and sky that form our world. This myth raises intriguing questions about the nature of creation and destruction. Does creation always require destruction, as it does in Ymir's case? Can chaos ever truly be tamed, or is it an essential part of the universe? And what is the role of giants in these myths? Are they simply forces of destruction, or are they also creators, shapers of worlds, and guardians of cosmic balance? Looking beyond Norse mythology, we see similar themes in other cultures. In Japanese mythology, for instance, the giant Susanoo, the storm god, plays a dual role as both a creator and a destroyer. His wild, uncontrollable nature leads to chaos, but he is also responsible for shaping parts of the world. In African mythology, giants are often seen as embodiments of nature itself, forces that shape the land and control the elements. These myths remind us that creation is rarely a simple, peaceful process. It often involves conflict, sacrifice, and transformation. Ymir's story, like these other myths, offers a powerful reflection on the complexity of creation. It's not just about building something new. It's about making sense of the chaos, finding order in the disorder, and understanding the balance between creation and destruction. And perhaps most importantly, it's about recognizing that the world we live in is shaped by forces far greater than ourselves, forces that are both beautiful and terrifying. As we bring this exploration of Ymir and the giants to a close, let's reflect on the lasting impact of these myths. They challenge us to think about the world in a different way, to see the natural landscape not just as a collection of physical objects, but as something deeply connected to the stories and beings that created it. In Norse mythology, the mountains, the seas, and the sky are all part of Ymir's body, a reminder that creation and destruction are intertwined, and that the world we live in is the result of a grand, cosmic sacrifice. Join me as we delve deep into the realms of Norse mythology and the Marvel Universe to uncover the fascinating secrets behind Sif, the golden-haired goddess and Thor's faithful partner. Sif may not appear in many of the myths or have the spotlight in Marvel Comics, but her role is integral, both as a symbol of fertility and as a goddess connected to the earth. Today, we'll explore her mythological significance, the intriguing tale of her golden hair, and her portrayal in modern Marvel adaptations. Sif's golden hair is one of her most recognizable features, but it symbolizes far more than physical beauty. In Norse mythology, her golden locks are often interpreted as a metaphor for fields of ripened wheat, linking her directly to the earth's fertility and harvest. This connection to the earth emphasizes her role as a goddess of life and abundance, a provider who nurtures the land and ensures prosperity. The growth and vitality that her hair symbolizes make her an embodiment of the cycles of nature. But there's a twist in Sif's story that gives her an even deeper connection to Asgardian myths. One of the most well-known legends involving Sif is when the mischievous trickster Loki cuts off all of her golden hair while she sleeps. Now Loki, being known for his pranks and troublemaking, likely saw this as just another one of his antics, but the consequences were severe. Thor, furious at what Loki had done to his wife, threatened to crush him unless he found a way to restore her hair. This is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Loki, desperate to avoid Thor's wrath, sought help from the master dwarven blacksmiths, the sons of Ivaldi, who not only crafted Sif's new golden hair, but also forged several other gifts for the gods. Among these gifts was Mjolnir, Thor's iconic hammer, which became one of the most powerful weapons in Norse mythology. In this way, Sif's story becomes pivotal not just to her own character, but to the entire pantheon of Norse gods. Without her, we might never have had the mighty Mjolnir, symbolizing Thor's power and protection over the realms. Sif's role as Thor's partner is also significant. Their marriage represents a balance of forces. Thor, the thunder god, represents the untamed, raw power of nature, while Sif, the earth goddess, represents growth, life, and sustenance. Together, they symbolize the interconnectedness of nature, where thunderstorms bring rain to nourish the earth, and in return, the earth provides life. Their union is not just one of love, but one of cosmic harmony, ensuring the continuation of life for both gods and humans alike. However, while Sif's appearances in ancient Norse myths are relatively limited, her character takes on new dimensions in modern adaptations, especially in the Marvel Universe. In the comics and movies, Sif is portrayed not just as Thor's wife, but as a fierce and independent warrior in her own right. She often fights alongside Thor, proving that she is more than capable of holding her own in battle. In Marvel, Sif embodies both physical prowess and unwavering loyalty. Her warrior spirit, combined with her golden-haired beauty, makes her a beloved character among fans. Interestingly, Sif's character in Marvel also emphasizes her adaptability and personal growth. She evolves from the background role she played in ancient mythology into a central figure who is as brave and fearless as the other warriors of Asgard. In one of her most dramatic moments in Marvel Comics, Sif battles the death goddess Persephone to save Thor and restore order to the universe. This act of courage and selflessness demonstrates that Sif is more than just Thor's love interest. She's a powerful force in her own right, willing to go to great lengths to protect those she cares about. And let's not forget her relationship with Loki in both mythology and comics. While the myth involving her hair shows Loki as her adversary, in the Marvel Universe, Loki and Sif's dynamic is more complicated. They share moments of conflict, but also moments of understanding. Sif often stands as a moral counterbalance to Loki's chaos, showing her wisdom and depth. Her interactions with Loki highlight her patience and insight, which are often overlooked in favor of her physical attributes. Sif's golden hair, her most famous trait, is a lasting symbol of her connection to the earth. But her story shows she's more than just a figure of beauty. In many ways, Sif is the heart of Asgard, representing fertility, growth, and the nurturing spirit that keeps the land and its people thriving. Her marriage to Thor is more than just a romantic partnership. It's a union of forces that sustain the balance of life. Even though Sif often plays a supporting role in Thor's stories, her influence is felt in subtle and profound ways. Without her, Thor's story would lack the richness and depth that comes from having a goddess who balances his strength with her nurturing energy. Her story demonstrates the power of endurance, loyalty, and inner strength, qualities that transcend the ages, from Norse mythological times to modern Marvel adaptations. Sif's importance in both mythology and comics reminds us that even the characters who don't always take center stage are crucial to the overall narrative. Whether it's through her healing powers in the ancient tales or her fierce combat skills in Marvel, Sif is an essential part of the Asgardian world and an inspiring figure in her own right. Join me as we dive into the incredible myths of Athena, the warrior queen of Olympus. From her mysterious birth to her strategic brilliance in warfare, Athena's story is one of wisdom, courage, and timeless influence. Together, we'll uncover the hidden wisdom behind her epic tales and understand why she remains one of the most revered deities in Greek mythology. Athena's origin story is as unique as she is. Legend has it that she was born fully grown and armored from the head of Zeus, the king of the gods. This remarkable birth symbolizes her dual role as a goddess of wisdom and war. Unlike other gods, she wasn't born of a woman, which set her apart from the beginning, signaling her divine intelligence and strength. Athena's journey to power wasn't without challenges. Despite being the daughter of Zeus, she had to prove herself in a male-dominated pantheon where gods like Ares and Poseidon were seen as the ultimate warriors. However, Athena stood out not for brute strength, but for her sharp intellect and strategic mind. She became known as the goddess who could combine wisdom with warfare, a rare blend that allowed her to outsmart even the fiercest of opponents. One of the most celebrated myths that exemplifies Athena's strategic brilliance is the Trojan War. Unlike the chaotic and rage-driven Ares, Athena brought strategy and planning to the battlefield. She was instrumental in guiding the Greeks to victory, offering her wisdom to heroes like Odysseus and Achilles. Her intervention was pivotal in the creation of the famed Trojan horse, a clever ploy that led to the fall of Troy. Athena wasn't just a warrior. She was the mind behind the strategy that won wars. Athena's wisdom wasn't always kind. One of her most famous and complex stories is her involvement with Medusa, initially a beautiful maiden. Medusa was transformed into a gorgon by Athena as a punishment. Though this tale portrays Athena in a harsh light, it's often interpreted as a lesson on the consequences of desecrating sacred spaces, reminding us that wisdom sometimes comes with harsh justice. Despite the tragedy, Athena later aids the hero Perseus in slaying Medusa, showcasing her influence in the heroic journeys. Perhaps one of the most famous rivalries in Greek mythology was between Athena and her uncle Poseidon, the god of the sea. Their competition over the patronage of Athens is a story of both cunning and resourcefulness. While Poseidon offered the people of Athens a saltwater spring, Athena presented them with an olive tree, symbolizing peace, prosperity, and sustenance. The people wisely chose Athena's gift, and the city of Athens was named in her honor. This myth highlights her wisdom in offering practical solutions rather than displays of power. Athena wasn't just a warrior. She was a protector of cities and a counselor to many heroes. She guided Perseus, offering him the tools needed to defeat Medusa. She was also a key figure in the Odyssey, mentoring Odysseus through his long and dangerous journey home. Athena's guidance was never overbearing. She respected the agency of the mortals she helped, offering wisdom and letting them make their own decisions. This quality of leadership made her beloved by both gods and mortals alike. Athena's influence extends far beyond mythological stories. She became the symbol of Athens, a city that became a hub of art, philosophy, and democracy. The Parthenon, her grand temple in Athens, remains a testament to her lasting influence on culture and civilization. Her image has inspired countless works of art, literature, and philosophy throughout history, representing the balance of wisdom and strength. Even today, Athena's legacy lives on. She is often seen as a feminist icon, embodying intelligence, independence, and strategic thinking. Her story resonates with people facing challenges, reminding us of the power of wit over brute force. Athena's myths continue to inspire writers, artists, and thinkers in modern times, keeping her influence alive in the collective imagination. Athena's role as a strategic genius. In the Trojan War, Athena didn't just provide brute force, but offered tactical guidance that shaped the outcome. Her counsel to Odysseus and Achilles during key moments, like the creation of the Trojan horse, demonstrated her ability to think ahead and outsmart the enemy. This myth serves as a powerful lesson on the importance of strategy over impulsiveness, a trait Athena consistently exemplified. Athena stands as a powerful symbol of wisdom, strategic warfare, and justice. She teaches us that true strength doesn't just come from power, but from the ability to think critically, solve problems, and act with integrity. Her presence in Greek mythology remains an enduring symbol of intelligence and leadership. Athena's story is filled with lessons that are still relevant today, whether it's her wisdom, her strength, or her ability to balance justice with strategy. Athena's influence has shaped the world in ways we still see today. Gaze of the Gods, the forbidden love of Medusa and Poseidon. In a world where the divine meets the mortal, a love blooms that defies fate itself. This is the extraordinary tale of Medusa, a once beautiful priestess cursed to solitude, and Poseidon, the tempestuous god of the sea. Their story weaves through forbidden passion, tragic transformation, and the birth of legacies that would echo through the ages, revealing that love knows no bounds, not even those set by the gods. On the sun-drenched shores of the Aegean Sea, a stunning priestess named Medusa dedicated her life to Athena, the goddess of wisdom. With flowing golden hair and an unyielding spirit, she captivated all who gazed upon her. Yet, bound by her vows of celibacy, she remained untouched by love. Unbeknownst to her, destiny had woven a different tale, a tale of romance with Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, whose very nature was as wild and tempestuous as the waters he ruled. One fateful day, while fulfilling her sacred duties within Athena's temple, Poseidon, drawn by her ethereal beauty, transformed into a handsome mortal. Approaching her with charm and warmth, he ignited a spark that could not be ignored. Their stolen conversations flowed like the tide, filled with laughter and dreams that intertwined their fates. As weeks passed, the bond between Medusa and Poseidon deepened, and they found solace in secret meetings beneath the stars, sharing whispers of hope and longing along the shore. Their hearts danced to the rhythm of the waves, yet each embrace echoed the knowledge of their forbidden love. But their romance was fraught with peril. Medusa understood the weight of her vows to Athena, while Poseidon belonged to the realm of the gods. On a moonlit night, Poseidon vowed to protect her, and Medusa whispered, "If only we could escape these chains of fate," longing for a world where love could flourish free from the shadows of divine retribution. Their love, however, did not remain hidden. Athena, furious at Medusa's betrayal, stormed into the temple, her presence a tempest of rage. "You have dishonored me, Medusa. Your beauty shall become your curse," she declared, unleashing a transformation that turned Medusa's golden hair into serpents and her gentle gaze into a petrifying stare. Horrified, Poseidon rushed to her side, witnessing the tragic metamorphosis. "Medusa, what has happened?" he cried, his heart shattering at the sight of his beloved suffering. "I am cursed for loving you, Poseidon." Medusa sobbed, despair tightening its grip around her heart. Fueled by love and desperation, Poseidon vowed to find a way to free her from this nightmare. Determined, Poseidon embarked on a quest through treacherous waters, battling mythical creatures and facing the wrath of jealous gods. His journey led him to the legendary Mirror of Aegis, said to unveil one's true self and break unjust curses. With renewed hope, Poseidon returned to Medusa. "I have found a way. We can break this curse together," he declared, leading her to the hidden cave where the mirror awaited. With Poseidon by her side, Medusa gazed into the Mirror of Aegis. As she saw her true self, courageous and strong, the curse began to lift. The serpents retreated, her golden hair restored, and her gentle eyes reclaimed their warmth. "Medusa, you are free," Poseidon exclaimed, wrapping her in an embrace filled with joy. Their love had triumphed over darkness, but their journey was far from over. Realizing their love transcended mortal and divine boundaries, Medusa and Poseidon built a life together beneath the waves. In their magnificent underwater palace, they welcomed 3 children into their world. One, Thalassa, named after the sea. She possessed the power to command tides and currents, becoming the guardian of coastal villages, ensuring safe passage for sailors. 2, Cetus, their firstborn son, named after the legendary sea monster, inherited Poseidon's strength and courage. He served as a protector of the deep, maintaining harmony between the ocean and land. 3, Nereida, the youngest, named after the enchanting sea nymphs, was known for her melodious voice and healing touch. She spread joy and tranquility among those who dwelled by the sea. In addition to their 3 children, Medusa and Poseidon welcomed 2 extraordinary sons born from their love, destined to become legendary figures. 4, Pegasus, born from Medusa's blood after her transformation. Pegasus was a magnificent winged horse. He soared through the skies, symbolizing freedom and inspiration, becoming the steed of heroes in countless legends. 5, Chrysaor, emerging alongside Pegasus. Chrysaor was a fierce warrior with a golden sword. He became a protector of the realm, known for his bravery in battle and dedication to justice. Together, this extraordinary family forged a new legacy, teaching their children the values of love, loyalty, and compassion. Medusa and Poseidon, once doomed by fate, became symbols of hope and resilience. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden rays across the waves, Medusa and Poseidon stood hand in hand with their children, gazing at the sea that once separated them. Their love story became a legend, inspiring generations to believe in love's power to conquer all, including the wrath of gods. In the twilight of their lives, Medusa and Poseidon watched their children thrive, knowing their love had forged a path toward a brighter future. Their legacy, one of love, resilience, and family, would echo through time, reminding all that even in adversity, love's light could pierce through darkness, transcending the boundaries between gods and mortals.
Age of Mythology, and the god who rules both land and sea, Poseidon. We'll be exploring what makes him one of the most formidable gods in the game and how you can harness his unstoppable power to crush your opponents. I'll be showing you strategies, advanced tips, and even breaking down common mistakes so you can master Poseidon like a pro. Can we take down the competition using Poseidon's unstoppable forces? Let's find out. Poseidon is undeniably one of the most fascinating gods in Age of Mythology, and if you've ever played with or against him, you know why. Whether on land or at sea, Poseidon brings an arsenal of incredible abilities that can shift the balance of power in an instant. But while many players recognize his naval superiority, a lot of them overlook just how powerful Poseidon can be across the board. In this video, we'll break down his god powers, units, and strategies to see just how far you can push Poseidon. And trust me, you'll be amazed at the possibilities. So, let's start with the early game. Poseidon's power might seem overwhelming, but it all starts with the basics, building a solid economy. One of Poseidon's key advantages is his god power, lure. This power spawns a decoy animal near your town center, helping you gather food more quickly without having to send your villagers far away. The faster food gathering gives you an early advantage, allowing you to advance to the classical age ahead of your opponent. During this phase, it's critical to scout your map. Poseidon's cavalry units, even early on, are fast and effective at raiding enemy villages or securing strategic points. Make sure you're using this speed to disrupt your opponent's economy while building your own. Don't hesitate to engage in early cavalry skirmishes to weaken your enemy's expansion efforts. Once you've reached the mid-game, Poseidon truly begins to show his potential. Now is when his myth units and god powers come into play. Cavalry raids are Poseidon's bread and butter during this phase. His mounted units are fast, hit hard, and are perfect for hit-and-run tactics, making them ideal for harassing enemy villages and outmaneuvering their army. One of the most underrated aspects of Poseidon is his hero units. While they might not seem as powerful as those of other gods, they possess unique abilities that can turn the tide of any battle. Combining them with myth units like mermaids or cyclops creates a devastating force that can target both enemy armies and heroes. Speaking of myth units, Poseidon's mermaids are particularly effective against enemy heroes, which can be crucial in mid-game battles. Mermaids are swift and specialized for anti-hero tasks, making them a strong counter to some of the more powerful hero units from opposing gods. Use them strategically alongside your cavalry to deal with enemies who rely heavily on heroes. One of my favorite god powers in Poseidon's arsenal is Cyclone. This power is incredibly disruptive, allowing you to scatter your opponent's units and set up devastating follow-up attacks. A well-timed cyclone can split up an enemy army, leaving them vulnerable to a cavalry charge or siege attack. Whether on land or water, Poseidon's mid-game strategy revolves around using speed and versatility to keep your opponents on their heels. In the late game, Poseidon becomes a true powerhouse. By this point, you should have fully upgraded units, including his myth units like the mighty Colossus and Sea Monster. The Colossus is a tank on the battlefield, capable of dealing with enemy fortifications and heavy units. The Sea Monster, on the other hand, brings terror to your enemy's shores, sinking ships and wreaking havoc on coastal villages. One of the biggest advantages Poseidon has in the late game is his adaptability. Many players think of him primarily as a naval god, but Poseidon's army can dominate land battles as well. If you've controlled the seas throughout the game, you can use your naval superiority to launch amphibious attacks, overwhelming your opponent with land and sea forces simultaneously. A strategy one often used in the late game is to push hard on land while keeping the pressure up on the sea. Poseidon's combination of powerful myth units and versatile human units lets you control the flow of battle. If your opponent tries to turtle in their base, you can use Poseidon's siege units, supported by myth units, to break through. Don't forget to use Cyclone as an opener to scatter their defenses before your final push. Now that we've covered the basics, let's dive into some advanced tactics to elevate your gameplay. One of Poseidon's most powerful advantages is unit synergy. By combining different types of units, you can create a force that's greater than the sum of its parts. For instance, cavalry units paired with mermans or cyclops form a deadly combination. Your cavalry can quickly break enemy lines, while your myth units provide backup against enemy heroes or heavy infantry. And let's talk about god powers. Cyclone is a must-use ability during big battles, but combining it with a cavalry charge can be devastating. The moment your opponent's army is scattered, your cavalry can rush in and mop up the disorganized enemy forces. Additionally, don't underestimate Poseidon's hero units. While they may not seem as flashy, their ability to boost morale and handle key enemy targets can make all the difference. Even though Poseidon is incredibly powerful, many players still make mistakes that can cost them the game. One of the biggest mistakes is focusing too much on his navy. Yes, Poseidon has incredible naval strength, but if you're too focused on water battles, you might find yourself vulnerable on land. Poseidon's power lies in balance. Don't neglect your land units while dominating the seas. Another common mistake is underutilizing Poseidon's hero units. These heroes might seem less impactful compared to other gods, but their specialized abilities and synergy with myth units can be game-changing in both mid and late-game phases. Make sure you're upgrading and using them effectively. Let's finish off with some pro tips to ensure you're playing Poseidon to his fullest potential. 1. Speed is everything. Poseidon's cavalry units are among the fastest in the game. Use them to control the pace of the match, constantly harassing your enemy's villagers and forcing them to stay on the defensive. 2. Dominate the water early. If the map has water, establish naval superiority early. Poseidon ships are incredibly strong, and controlling the water can allow you to launch amphibious assaults that overwhelm your opponent. 3. Use myth units wisely. Don't just spam myth units. Use them strategically, pairing them with human units to support your attacks. A well-placed colossus can take down a fortress, while a sea monster can obliterate a fleet of ships. 4. Cyclone combo. Combine Cyclone with a cavalry charge for maximum disruption. It's a powerful way to turn the tide of large-scale battles. In conclusion, Poseidon is an absolute powerhouse in Age of Mythology when played correctly. His versatility, speed, and devastating myth units make him one of the most dangerous gods in the game. Whether you're dominating the seas or leading a cavalry charge on land, Poseidon's strengths shine in every aspect of battle. So, what are you waiting for? Unleash the full power of Poseidon in your next match and leave your enemies trembling. Have you had any epic victories with Poseidon? Share your stories in the comments below.
Did you know that Norse mythology includes not just gods like Odin and Thor, but also terrifying monsters like Fenrir and Jormungandr? In today's video, we're diving into the captivating world of Norse mythology, exploring its rich tapestry of gods, monsters, and epic tales. Many people are familiar with popular figures like Thor from Marvel, but there's so much more depth and complexity in the original myths that deserves to be explored. It's easy to get caught up in the modern adaptations, but the original stories have a richness and authenticity that's worth discovering. Take Thor, for example. In the comics, he's a superhero with incredible strength, but in the myths, he's a complex figure with a deep sense of humor and a penchant for getting into trouble. The original myths offer a level of nuance and complexity that's often lost in modern adaptations. By exploring the original stories, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the characters and the world they inhabit. And who knows, we might even discover some new favorite gods and monsters along the way. The gods and goddesses of Norse mythology are some of the most fascinating figures in the pantheon, from the Allfather Odin, with his ravens and wolves, to the mysterious and enigmatic Freya, with her necklace of tears. Each of the gods has their own unique personality and story. And then there's Loki, the trickster god, who's always getting into mischief and causing trouble for the other gods. The complexities of their relationships and interactions are what make the myths so compelling and offer a glimpse into the cultural and societal values of the time. We'll delve into the major gods like Odin, Freya, and Loki, as well as fearsome creatures such as giants and dragons, and discuss their roles in the mythological narratives. The giants, or Jotnar, are some of the most fascinating creatures in the pantheon, with their incredible strength and often amoral behavior. And then there's the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, who's so massive he encircles the entire world. Each of these creatures offers a unique glimpse into the cultural and societal values of the time, and helps to illuminate the complexities of the myths. The stories themselves are epic in scope, ranging from the creation of the world to the eventual destruction of Ragnarok. The myths are full of action, adventure, and drama, with gods and monsters clashing in a battle for fate. And at the heart of it all is the complex web of relationships between the gods, with all their alliances and rivalries. The myths are a window into the past, offering us a glimpse of a long-lost culture and way of life. The climax of our exploration will focus on the dramatic events of Ragnarok, the end of the world in Norse mythology, where gods and monsters clash in a battle for fate. This epic tale is one of the most compelling in the entire pantheon, with its themes of fate, destiny, and the cyclical nature of time. From the fire giant Surtur emerging from the south, to the final battle between the gods and the forces of chaos, Ragnarok is a story that's both terrifying and exhilarating. And at the heart of it all is the question of whether the gods will be able to survive, or if they'll succumb to the forces of destruction. As the world burns and the gods fall, the story of Ragnarok becomes one of rebirth and renewal, as the survivors emerge into a new world, free from the burdens of the past. It's a powerful message, one that speaks to the cyclical nature of time, and the idea that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope for a brighter future. The themes of Ragnarok are timeless, speaking to fundamental human concerns about mortality, fate, and the nature of existence. In the end, Ragnarok serves as a reminder of the power of myth to illuminate our understanding of the world and our place within it. The stories of Norse mythology are a gift, offering us a window into the past and a glimpse of a long-lost culture and way of life. By exploring these stories, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities and nuances of human culture, and the ways in which our stories shape our understanding of the world.
We venture into the dark and mysterious realms of Norse mythology to explore the terrifying tale of Fenrir, the monstrous wolf prophesied to bring about Ragnarok, the end of the world. Born from the chaos and trickery of Loki, Fenrir's destiny is intricately woven with that of the gods, and his wrath threatens to destroy everything in his path. Join me as we unravel the legend of the wolf who will devour the gods. Fenrir is not just a terrifying creature in Norse mythology. He is a symbol of chaos, fate, and the destruction that is unavoidable in life and death. His tale is one of power, fear, and the gods' desperate attempts to delay the inevitable. But, as we'll learn today, fate cannot be denied. Fenrir's origin story begins with his parents. Loki, the god of mischief and chaos, and Angrboda, a giantess from Jotunheim. From this union, 3 monstrous children were born: Fenrir, Jormungandr, the world's serpent, and Hel, ruler of the underworld. Each of these siblings was foretold to bring great doom upon the gods, but it was Fenrir's fate that would strike the most fear into the hearts of the Aesir. When Fenrir was still a pup, the gods initially tried to raise him in Asgard under their watchful eyes. Yet even in his youth, Fenrir showed signs of his uncontrollable power. He grew at an astonishing rate, and it became clear that his strength would soon surpass that of any creature in the 9 worlds. As his size increased, so did the gods' fear, for they knew that Fenrir was destined to play a central role in their destruction. The Aesir were haunted by a prophecy that foretold their downfall during Ragnarok, a great cosmic battle that would bring about the end of the world. Central to this prophecy was Fenrir, the wolf who would devour Odin, the All-Father, and lead to the destruction of Asgard. The gods could feel the looming shadow of this fate, but they were powerless to stop it. At first, the gods tried to live alongside Fenrir, hoping to placate the beast. Tyr, the god of war and justice, was the only one brave enough to feed Fenrir and interact with him directly. But even Tyr could sense that the wolf's growing power was something beyond their control. As Fenrir continued to grow in size and ferocity, the gods made the decision to bind him, for fear that he would fulfill his dark destiny. But how does one bind a force of nature itself? The first attempts to bind Fenrir were laughable to the great wolf. The gods forged chains from the strongest iron they could find, but each time, Fenrir broke free with little effort. His strength was beyond anything the gods had encountered, and they soon realized they would need a different solution. Determined to prevent the prophecy from unfolding, the gods sought the aid of the dwarves, renowned craftsmen known for their ability to create objects of immense power. The dwarves forged a magical chain called Gleipnir, a seemingly fragile ribbon, crafted from the most unusual ingredients. The sound of a cat's footfall, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, and the beard of a woman, among other impossible elements. Despite its delicate appearance, Gleipnir was enchanted to be unbreakable. The gods, fearing Fenrir's suspicion, approached him with a cunning plan. They asked him to test his strength by breaking Gleipnir, assuring him it was merely a game. But Fenrir was no fool. Sensing deception, he refused to be bound unless one of the gods placed their hand in his mouth as a show of trust. Tyr, the god of war, volunteered, knowing full well what this meant. Fenrir allowed himself to be bound by Gleipnir, but when he realized he could not break free, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand as payment for their treachery. Though Fenrir was now bound, the gods were not at ease. They knew that this was a temporary solution, a stalling tactic in the face of the inevitable. Fenrir's fate was written in the stars, and one day, he would break free. Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, was an event that none could escape. It was a battle that would bring about the destruction of the gods, giants, and much of the known world. Central to this cataclysmic event was Fenrir, whose freedom marked the beginning of the end. As Ragnarok approaches, the world falls into chaos. The sun and moon are devoured by wolves, plunging the world into darkness. Earthquakes shake the land, and the sky is filled with storms and fire. The giants march from Jotunheim, ready to battle the gods, and Loki, having broken free from his bonds, sails the ship Naglfar toward Asgard with an army of the dead. Amidst this chaos, Fenrir finally snaps his chains. His fury is uncontainable, and his roar echoes across the 9 worlds. The gods brace for the final battle, knowing that their doom is at hand. In the heart of the battlefield, Fenrir faces his greatest foe, Odin, the All-Father, leader of the Aesir. Odin, riding his mighty 8-legged steed Sleipnir, charges into battle with his spear Gungnir, prepared to meet his fate. But the prophecy cannot be denied. Fenrir, fueled by rage and the inevitable pull of destiny, devours Odin, swallowing him whole in one horrific moment. The All-Father, the ruler of the gods, falls to the jaws of the wolf. But Fenrir's victory is short-lived. Odin's son, Vidar, the god of vengeance, steps forward to avenge his father. Armed with a magical shoe that grants him immense strength, Vidar battles Fenrir. He pries open the wolf's jaw and slays him, finally bringing an end to the beast who had long been destined to destroy the gods. Fenrir's tale is more than just a story of a monstrous wolf. In Norse mythology, he represents the chaotic forces of nature, the inevitable end that comes for all things, even the gods. His binding symbolizes mankind's futile attempts to control the uncontrollable, to stave off fate. But as we learn from his eventual freedom, destiny cannot be altered, only delayed. Fenrir also serves as a reminder of the cyclical nature of Norse mythology. The end of one world gives way to the birth of another. Though Ragnarok brings destruction, it also brings renewal. New gods will rise, and the world will be reborn, just as Fenrir's actions pave the way for a new era. The story of Fenrir, the dreaded wolf destined to devour the gods, is a powerful reminder of the forces of chaos and fate that govern the universe. His role in Ragnarok marks the end of an era, but also the beginning of something new. Fenrir, with his unstoppable strength and boundless fury, is a symbol of the destruction and rebirth that lies at the heart of Norse mythology.
Join me as I dive into the ultimate showdown of Norse mythology. Thor, the god of thunder, takes on Jormungand, the world serpent, a battle foretold to shape the very fate of the cosmos. What really happens when these two titans clash? Let's find out. In the world of Norse mythology, few stories are as gripping or as symbolic as the battle between Thor and Jormungand. On one side, you have Thor, the protector of Asgard and the Nine Realms, known for his bravery, strength, and his iconic weapon Mjolnir. On the other, there's Jormungand, a monstrous serpent so vast that it encircles the earth itself, biding its time for the cataclysmic event known as Ragnarok, the end of the world as we know it. This battle isn't just about brute strength. It's a cosmic showdown between order and chaos, between the protector and the destroyer. Today, we'll explore Jormungandr's origins, his fated role in Ragnarok, and the climactic battle between him and Thor, which ends in their mutual destruction. We'll also uncover the deeper symbolism behind this epic confrontation, reflecting the cyclical nature of time and the universe. Let's start with Jormungandr's origins. Born to Loki, the trickster god, and the giantess Angrboda, Jormungandr was one of three monstrous children, alongside the wolf Fenrir and Hel, the ruler of the underworld. Upon his birth, Odin, the All-Father, saw Jormungandr's immense potential for destruction and cast him into the ocean that encircles Midgard, or Earth. There, Jormungandr grew so large that he could wrap himself around the entire planet and bite his own tail. This image of Jormungandr biting his tail is not just a depiction of his immense size. It represents the Ouroboros, an ancient symbol of eternity, cycles, and the interconnectedness of all things. In this way, Jormungandr represents the inevitable cycles of destruction and rebirth that define Norse cosmology. On the other side of this story is Thor, son of Odin and defender of the Nine Realms. With his hammer Mjolnir, Thor has defeated countless giants, trolls, and monsters, protecting the gods and mortals alike. But none of these battles compares to his destined confrontation with Jormungandr. It's not the first time Thor and the serpent meet. Their earlier encounters foreshadow this final battle. In one myth, Thor attempts to fish Jormungandr out of the sea, only for the serpent to escape when a giant sabotages Thor's efforts. This brief clash plants the seeds for their eventual apocalyptic battle at Ragnarok. Ragnarok is the twilight of the gods, the prophesied end of the world in Norse mythology, where the forces of chaos, led by Loki and his monstrous children, rise against the gods of Asgard. The world is engulfed in fire and destruction. The sun and moon are devoured by wolves, and the seas surge as Jormungandr rises from the depths, signaling the beginning of the end. Thor and Jormungandr are fated to meet on the battlefield during Ragnarok. It is a fight not just between two physical forces, but between cosmic elements, thunder and lightning against the ocean and chaos. As Thor wades through the sea of destruction, Mjolnir in hand, he faces his greatest challenge yet, the enormous, venomous serpent whose very presence threatens the balance of the world. As the battle begins, the earth trembles under the weight of Jormungandr's massive coils. The skies darken as Thor charges toward his enemy, his hammer crackling with divine power. With every strike of Mjolnir, thunder echoes across the 9 realms. But Jormungandr is no ordinary foe. His venomous breath poisons the very air around him, and his strength is enough to shatter mountains. The two clash in an epic struggle, each blow sending shockwaves through the cosmos. The battle rages on, Thor unleashing his fury with Mjolnir, while Jormungandr retaliates with deadly force. At last, Thor lands the fatal blow, striking the serpent down. But victory comes at a heavy price. Jormungandr, in his final moments, releases a cloud of venom so potent that Thor, despite his godly resilience, is only able to walk 9 steps before succumbing to the poison. Both warrior and serpent fall, and their deaths signal the beginning of the end for the gods. The world is engulfed in flames, and the gods of Asgard meet their fates. But in true Norse fashion, destruction is not the end. Out of the ashes, a new world is destined to rise, reborn from the chaos, and the cycle begins anew. The story of Jormungandr and Thor is rich with symbolism. Jormungandr, the Ouroboros, represents the cyclical nature of time, the endless loop of destruction and rebirth. Thor, as the defender of Asgard, symbolizes order and protection, but also the inevitability of fate. In this way, their battle is more than a physical confrontation. It reflects the larger cosmic balance between creation and destruction, life and death, and the endless cycles that govern existence. It's a theme that resonates far beyond Norse mythology. The idea of a great serpent encircling the world can be found in many cultures, representing everything from the boundless ocean to the infinite nature of time. And the hero's battle against the forces of chaos is a story that repeats itself in countless myths across history, reminding us of the delicate balance that holds the universe together. The battle between Thor and Jormungandr is one of the most iconic moments in Norse mythology. It's a tale of heroism, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Even though both combatants meet their end, their story lives on, passed down through the ages as a reminder of the cyclical nature of time and the inevitability of fate.
The world of Freya, the goddess of love, war, magic, and mysteries in Norse mythology. Freya is not just a goddess to be admired for her beauty, but also for her courage and power. From the heart of battle to the delicate threads of fate, Freya's story is one of the most intriguing in the Norse pantheon. So join me as we try to uncover her secrets and the legends that surround this formidable figure. Freya, one of the most powerful deities in Norse mythology, was not just a goddess of love and beauty. Her influence stretched far beyond what many imagine, as she was also associated with war, death, fertility, and sorcery. This makes Freya a truly complex and multifaceted character. In fact, she embodies a perfect balance between tenderness and ferocity, compassion and strength, qualities that made her beloved by gods and mortals alike. Freya is often depicted in her chariot, which is pulled by 2 cats, a symbol of her magical nature. Cats were seen as creatures of mystery and independence, much like Freya herself. She's also known to don a cloak made of falcon feathers, allowing her to shapeshift and travel between realms, further highlighting her deep connection with magic. While many associate Freya primarily with love and beauty, her powers extended far beyond romance. She had the unique privilege of selecting warriors who would die in battle, and would take half of those fallen to her hall, Folkvanger. The other half were sent to Odin's hall, Valhalla. This critical role in the afterlife shows that Freya wasn't just a passive deity of affection. She wielded significant influence over the fates of men. This duality between love and death is central to her character. Freya's connection to magic is also a key element of her persona. She was a practitioner of seer, a form of Norse sorcery that allowed her to see and influence the future. In fact, it's said that she was the one who taught Odin the art of seer. This powerful form of magic often dealt with altering fate, manipulating reality, and communicating with the spirits of the dead. It's fascinating to think that the mighty Allfather Odin himself learned the art of fate weaving from Freya. This speaks volumes about her role as a wise and influential figure in Norse mythology. Now let's delve into her family and origins. Freya was born into the Vanir, a group of gods associated with fertility and prosperity, as the daughter of the sea god Njord and the sister of Freyr, the god of fertility. This familial connection tied her deeply to themes of life and renewal. As a member of the Vanir, Freya's presence symbolized growth, abundance, and love. But after the Aesir-Vanir War, a war between two races of gods, Freya became a part of the Aesir tribe and brought her knowledge of cedar magic with her, further enhancing her reputation as a powerful and wise deity. Freya's marriage to the god Oddr is another intriguing part of her story. Unlike many goddesses, Freya was deeply attached to her husband, but their marriage was marked by sorrow. Oddr disappeared on a long journey, and Freya's tears, said to be made of red gold, fell in her grief. She traveled through many worlds in search of Oddr, and her sorrow over his absence was so profound that it said her tears created precious gold. This myth beautifully illustrates Freya's deep emotional complexity and her ability to experience and express both profound love and loss. Her search for Oddr is symbolic of the journey of the soul and the longing for unity, which ties into her associations with both life and death. Freya's character is not just that of a lover, but also a seeker of truth and balance, navigating the cosmic forces that shape the universe. Her grief over Oddr's disappearance led her to travel across different realms, which further emphasized her link with the mysterious and the otherworldly. Another significant aspect of Freya's persona is her leadership of the Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. The Valkyries, fierce warrior maidens, would guide fallen warriors to either Folkvangr or Valhalla, and Freya's association with them highlights her role as a goddess of war. She was not a passive observer of battle. She was an active participant, shaping the fates of those who fought valiantly. In some accounts, she even took to the battlefield herself, riding into war and inspiring warriors with her strength and beauty. The balance of love and war is a delicate one, and Freya's influence on both aspects of life makes her a goddess unlike any other. While she could stir the passions of love, she could also incite the fury of battle. Her ability to inspire warriors, while simultaneously wielding the powers of magic and fate, made her one of the most revered deities in Norse mythology. Her connection to magic goes beyond cedar. Freya was also associated with the Vanir's more nature-based magic, rooted in fertility and the cycles of life. She represents the natural world's mysterious and ever-changing forces, linking her to concepts like transformation, rebirth, and the cycles of seasons. The balance between love and war, life and death, magic and reality, all converge in Freya's persona. The mysteries surrounding Freya's character have left many scholars and storytellers captivated. Even today, she serves as a symbol of feminine power, independence, and mystery. Whether she's depicted as a lover, a warrior, or a seeker of truth, Freya's complexities make her one of the most enduring figures in mythology. As we've uncovered today, Freya is far more than just a goddess of love.
Let's dive deep into the chaos of Loki, the trickster god, and unravel the mysteries behind his mischief and the threads of fate that shape his journey. Loki is a character full of contradictions, a trickster, a shapeshifter, a god who defied the gods themselves. What makes Loki so fascinating is his complexity. He's a villain, a hero, and everything in between. So, let's dive into the world of this legendary figure and explore how his story challenges our perceptions of fate, identity, and morality. Loki's nature has always been shrouded in mystery, making it difficult to pin him down as a hero or a villain. He walks the fine line between clever trickster and cunning manipulator, often leaving us wondering what his true intentions are. What drives him? Is it justice, chaos, or something else entirely? His actions can be both clever and malicious, raising questions about how we judge others based on their actions. And one thing is for sure, Loki's complexity is what makes him endlessly captivating. Let's begin by exploring Loki's roots in Norse mythology, where he is often depicted as the adopted son of Odin and Frigga. But unlike Thor, who's seen as a hero of Asgard, Loki is the ultimate outsider. Despite being among the gods, Loki is constantly stirring trouble. He is known for his shape-shifting abilities, transforming into anything from a salmon to a mare, and he uses his tricks both to help and to hinder the gods. One of Loki's most infamous stories is when he cuts off the hair of Thor's wife, Sif. This action sets off a chain of events, leading Loki to bargain with the dwarves to create powerful items, including Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. This story alone showcases Loki's dual nature. He causes chaos, but ultimately provides the gods with tools that help them in their battles. He constantly operates in that gray area between being a nuisance and being essential to the divine order. Loki's shape-shifting abilities symbolize his fluid and unpredictable nature. Unlike many other gods, he doesn't have a set form or a defined sense of self. He transforms into a mare, a fly, and even an old woman in different tales. This shape-shifting is not just a trick or a power. It's a metaphor for Loki's ever-changing personality. He's a character who can't be easily pinned down, which is why he's such a fascinating figure. Loki's fluidity reflects the contradictions that exist within us all. One moment, he's helping the gods. The next, he's working against them. His actions leave us questioning whether we can ever truly define him as good or evil. And isn't that the essence of the human condition? We're not purely one thing or the other. Loki mirrors this inner turmoil, embodying both the light and dark sides of human nature. Loki's role in mythology becomes even more significant when we look at his children, each of whom plays a key part in the Norse apocalypse, Ragnarok. His children include the monstrous wolf Fenrir, the world-encircling serpent Jormungandr, and Hel, the ruler of the underworld. These beings, born of Loki's union with the giantess Angrboda, are symbols of chaos and destruction, mirroring Loki's own unpredictable nature. Fenrir, for example, is fated to kill Odin during Ragnarok, while Jormungandr is destined to fight Thor to the death. These relationships emphasize Loki's role as a catalyst for the end of the world. Even though he's not always directly responsible for the chaos, he is the father of forces that will ultimately bring about the downfall of the gods. This raises the question, is Loki the orchestrator of fate, or is he bound by it just like everyone else? Now let's talk about Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, where Loki's role becomes central. In Norse mythology, it is prophesied that Loki will fight against the gods in the final battle, siding with the giants and leading them into Asgard. But what's interesting about Loki's involvement in Ragnarok is his apparent struggle with fate. Throughout his life, Loki plays with destiny, using his cunning and trickery to escape his punishment time and time again. But in the end, even he can't escape his role in the grand design of the cosmos. This brings us to one of the most compelling aspects of Loki's character, his internal conflict between fate and free will. Is he truly in control of his actions? Or is he just playing the part that destiny has written for him? Loki is often seen as an agent of chaos, but he's also a victim of fate. His journey reflects a deeper philosophical question. Are we all bound by destiny, or can we forge our own paths? One moment that perfectly illustrates this struggle is when Loki leads the giants in the battle of Ragnarok. Despite his previous loyalty to the gods, he ends up on the side of destruction. This moment forces us to question whether Loki is acting out of his own free will or simply fulfilling a prophecy. And in the end, Loki meets his tragic fate, killed by Heimdall in a final confrontation. But before Ragnarok, there's another crucial moment in Loki's story, his ultimate betrayal and punishment. After the death of the beloved god Balder, which Loki orchestrates by tricking Balder's blind brother Hod into killing him, the gods finally turn on Loki. This is a defining moment in his narrative. His cleverness and mischief have gone too far. Loki is captured and bound in a cave, with a venomous serpent suspended above him. As the snake's venom drips onto his face, Loki's wife, Sigyn, stands by his side, catching the poison in a bowl. But whenever the bowl is full, she must leave to empty it, and in those moments, Loki is racked with agonizing pain. This punishment is a stark contrast to the clever, free-willed Loki we've seen before. In this moment, he becomes a tragic figure, bound by the consequences of his actions. Now let's shift our gaze to modern interpretations of Loki, especially in the Marvel Universe, where he has become an icon in Norse mythology. He's still a trickster and shapeshifter, still constantly in conflict with Thor, and still driven by a complex mix of envy and love for his family. But the Marvel films add more depth to his character, giving him a vulnerability that makes him more relatable. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki's relationship with Thor becomes a central theme, and his motivations are explored in greater detail. We see Loki as not just a trickster, but a character who is constantly seeking his place in the world. He's not driven purely by a desire for chaos or power. There's also a deep-seated need for belonging and recognition. This dynamic adds new layers to his story, making him more than just a villain. Loki's story is one of tragedy and triumph, mischief and destiny. He walks the fine line between chaos and fate, blurring the lines between the two. Through his story, we're forced to confront our own perceptions of morality and the nature of fate. Is Loki a hero, a villain, or something in between? Perhaps the answer lies in his complexity, a character who defies simple categorization and invites us to see the gray areas in our own lives.
Thor is undoubtedly one of the most iconic characters in the Marvel Universe, and for good reason. As the god of thunder, he's got a certain swagger that's hard to resist. I mean, who wouldn't want to wield a hammer that can summon lightning bolts and control the weather? But beyond the hammer and the thunder, Thor's story is full of epic battles, personal growth, and some pretty hilarious moments. Today, I'm diving into some of Thor's craziest moments and ranking them from least to most epic. Let's see how many of your favorite Thor moments made the list. First off, let's talk about one of the most complicated relationships in the MCU, Thor's bond with his brother Loki. Whether they're fighting against each other or teaming up to save Asgard, Thor and Loki's dynamic is always intense. Their relationship evolves from sibling rivalry to reluctant allies, showing us that even gods struggle with family drama. Their moments together are full of betrayal and redemption, and you can't talk about Thor without mentioning his love-hate relationship with Loki. Next up, Thor's struggle with grief and failure in Avengers Endgame. This is one of Thor's most human moments. After failing to stop Thanos, we see Thor grappling with immense guilt and loss, transforming from a confident god to someone who feels completely defeated. His arc in Endgame shows how even gods have to deal with failure and find a way to rise again. His transformation, complete with his Lebowski look, also adds some humor, reminding us that Thor, even in his darkest moments, still has a heart of gold. Then there's Thor's journey from warrior to leader. He's always been a fighter, but we see him truly step into a leadership role as he mentors Valkyrie and eventually passes the throne of Asgard to her. It's a powerful moment that shows Thor has grown from being a brash, headstrong prince to a thoughtful leader who understands what it means to put his people first. Of course, we can't forget his epic fight against the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok. This is one of the most memorable and fun fights in the MCU, two of the strongest Avengers going head-to-head in an arena. Thor vs. Hulk is the showdown we all wanted, but it's also more than just a fight. Thor's arc in Ragnarok centers on him realizing that his true strength doesn't come from his hammer, Mjolnir, but from within himself. That's a powerful message, one of growth and self-discovery. Speaking of the hammer, Mjolnir is basically an extension of Thor himself. It's a symbol of his power, but also his identity. Losing Mjolnir in Ragnarok left Thor vulnerable, but it also pushed him to find his strength beyond the weapon. And remember when he becomes worthy again to wield both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker in Endgame? That was a jaw-dropping moment that cemented Thor's status as a true hero, not just because of his powers, but because of who he is. But Thor isn't all serious. Let's talk about his hilarious moments. Whether it's accidentally summoning goats or getting a terrible haircut, Thor has given us plenty of laughs. One of my favorite funny moments is when he thought he was a statue. Despite being a god, Thor is still just a big softy with a goofy side. His sense of humor is what makes him so relatable despite all the godly might. Let's not forget Thor's epic showdown with Surtur in Ragnarok. Facing off against a fire demon the size of a mountain? No problem for Thor. He takes down Surtur's army with ease, and the best part is, he looks like he's having the time of his life. The combination of his bravado and sheer power in that moment is what makes it one of Thor's wildest scenes. Then there's his evolution into the King of Asgard. Thor's growth from a reckless warrior to a compassionate leader culminates in him passing the leadership of New Asgard to Valkyrie. He's learned to step back, understanding that being a leader isn't just about power but about making the right choices for his people. It's a beautiful moment of selflessness that marks the end of one chapter in his life and the beginning of another. And if we're talking about Thor's cosmic adventures, let's not forget how he started interacting with other mythologies. With the introduction of other gods like Zeus and Hercules in Thor, Love and Thunder, Thor's story has expanded into other pantheons. What could be cooler than watching gods from different mythologies clash in future adventures? This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for Thor's character moving forward. Lastly, Thor's connection to Earth is a key part of what makes him so unique. From his romance with Jane Foster to his friendships with the Avengers, Thor has always had a soft spot for humanity. His attachment to Midgard or Earth helps him grow beyond the godly arrogance he had when we first met him. In many ways, his experiences on Earth have shaped him into the hero he is today. So there you have it, Thor's wildest and most epic moments ranked. From his hilarious mishaps to his battles with gods and monsters, Thor has proven time and again that he's more than just the god of thunder. He's a hero with heart, humor, and a deep sense of responsibility.
Join me as I dive deep into Odin's wisdom and challenge myself to apply his divine lessons to my everyday life for a whole week. Odin, the All-Father of Norse mythology, is a symbol of wisdom, power, and sacrifice. His journey is a testament to the importance of perseverance and the pursuit of knowledge. As the ruler of Asgard, Odin's wisdom and guidance have shaped the fate of the 9 realms, and his sacrifices have become legendary tales that continue to inspire and teach us valuable lessons. Odin's quest for knowledge was not an easy one. He had to face incredible challenges and make unimaginable sacrifices to gain the wisdom he sought. One of the most significant examples of his determination is the story of how he obtained the runes, ancient symbols of power and wisdom. According to myth, Odin hung himself from the branch of Yggdrasil, the world tree, for 9 days and 9 nights, sacrificing his own life force to gain the knowledge of the runes. This powerful display of devotion and determination is a testament to the importance Odin placed on wisdom and understanding. Odin's sacrifices didn't stop there. He also gave up one of his eyes in exchange for a drink from the Well of Mimir, a magical spring that granted wisdom and insight. This sacrifice, along with many others, demonstrates the extreme lengths Odin was willing to go to in order to gain the knowledge and power he desired. These sacrifices not only shaped his character, but also taught him valuable lessons about the nature of the universe and the interconnectedness of all things. The obstacles Odin faced on his journey were not limited to physical challenges. He also had to contend with the complexities of his own nature and the prophecies that foretold the downfall of the gods. Despite these challenges, Odin persevered, using his wisdom and cunning to overcome the obstacles that stood in his way. Through his experiences, Odin gained a profound understanding of the workings of the universe and the delicate balance of fate. He learned that true wisdom comes not from knowledge itself, but from the sacrifices we make to gain that knowledge. These sacrifices, and the lessons they taught him, have become an integral part of his character and the wisdom he imparts to others. One of the most significant stories about Odin is the tale of his sacrifice on Yggdrasil. This powerful narrative teaches us about the importance of perseverance, courage, and determination in the face of adversity. It also highlights the transformative power of sacrifice, demonstrating how Odin's willingness to give up his own life force allowed him to gain the knowledge and power he sought. Odin's sacrifice on Yggdrasil also speaks to the idea of rebirth and renewal. By giving up his life force, Odin was able to gain a new perspective and understanding of the world, which ultimately allowed him to return to life with a newfound appreciation for the preciousness of existence. This story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of letting go of our attachments and embracing change in order to grow and evolve. The lessons we can learn from Odin's experiences are just as relevant today as they were in ancient times. His willingness to sacrifice himself for the greater good, his perseverance in the face of adversity, and his determination to gain wisdom and understanding are all qualities that we can emulate in our own lives. Perhaps the most significant lesson we can learn from Odin is the importance of embracing our own darkness and imperfections. By acknowledging and accepting our own limitations, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. This acceptance can lead to personal growth, increased empathy, and a deeper connection to the universe and its mysteries. The most significant moment of sacrifice that led to Odin's enlightenment was his willingness to give up his own life force in exchange for wisdom and knowledge. This transformative experience allowed him to gain a profound understanding of the universe and its workings, ultimately leading to his enlightenment. Odin's willingness to make this sacrifice demonstrates the importance of letting go of our attachments and embracing the unknown in order to grow and evolve.
Join me as I dive into the incredible journey of Sultan Alp Arslan and see if I can piece together the lessons from his rise and fall before 2024 hits. Sultan Alp Arslan is one of the most pivotal figures in the Seljuk Empire, a powerful state that stretched from modern-day Turkey to the Middle East during the 11th century. His significance in the broader historical context of his reign cannot be overstated, as he played a crucial role in shaping the destiny of the region for centuries to come. When Alp Arslan ascended to the throne, he faced numerous challenges that threatened the very existence of his empire. Externally, rival empires like the Byzantine Empire and the Fatimid Caliphate were constantly probing for weaknesses, seeking to expand their territories at the expense of the Seljuks. Internally, the empire was plagued by strife among the ruling elite, with various factions vying for power and influence. To make matters worse, the empire was also struggling with economic stagnation, which further weakened its ability to respond to external threats. The situation was so dire that many doubted Alp Arslan's ability to hold the empire together. However, he proved to be a shrewd and cunning leader who used diplomacy and strategic alliances to navigate these treacherous waters. He formed key alliances with neighboring states, which not only helped to secure his borders, but also provided a much-needed influx of resources. One of Alp Arslan's most significant achievements was his ability to unite the warring factions within the empire. He did this by appointing capable governors and administrators who were loyal only to him, and by launching a series of military campaigns that refocused the attention of the ruling elite on external threats rather than internal power struggles. Alp Arslan's military campaigns were a testament to his brilliance as a strategist and tactician. He launched a series of lightning-fast raids against the Byzantine Empire, which not only gave him control over key trade routes, but also forced the Byzantines to divert troops from other theaters of war. He also conquered key cities like Aleppo and Damascus, which gave him a foothold in the Middle East. However, Alp Arslan's greatest military achievement was also the root of his downfall. His crushing defeat of the Byzantine Empire at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071 was a turning point in the history of the region, as it marked the beginning of the end of Byzantine dominance in the Middle East. But it also made him overconfident, and he began to take unnecessary risks, which ultimately led to his downfall. The peak of Alp Arslan's power came immediately after the Battle of Manzikert, when he was at the height of his military prowess and his empire was stronger than ever before. However, the turning point that led to his decline came just a few years later, when he was assassinated by a captive Bedouin chief. This event marked the beginning of a long period of instability and infighting within the empire, which ultimately led to its decline. The lessons learned from Alp Arslan's rise and fall are numerous. Firstly, overconfidence can be a leader's greatest enemy. Secondly, even the greatest empires can fall victim to internal strife and external threats. And finally, the importance of unity and cohesion within an empire cannot be overstated.
Did you know that Genghis Khan once used 1,000 cats and birds to conquer a city? Sounds like something out of a fairy tale, right? But it's not. This real and unusual episode from history reveals the sheer cunning and creativity that made Genghis Khan one of the most formidable conquerors in history. Stick around as we unravel the bizarre and fascinating story of how animals became an essential part of Mongol warfare. Throughout his reign, Genghis Khan was known for his unmatched military prowess. He forged the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Far East. However, this wasn't just due to the strength of his warriors, but also because of his innovative and often unconventional military tactics. In today's video, we'll dive into one of his most unusual strategies, the time he used 1,000 cats and birds to help conquer a city, illustrating how Genghis Khan's mastery of psychological warfare and creative thinking helped him triumph over seemingly insurmountable obstacles. To understand how such a strange tactic came about, we need to set the stage. By the early 13th century, the Mongols had already earned a reputation as fierce and ruthless warriors. Their army was highly mobile, with expert horsemen capable of covering vast distances. However, this dominance wasn't just built on brute force. Genghis Khan's campaigns were characterized by adaptability, intelligence gathering, and a keen understanding of psychological warfare. Warfare during this period was brutal, and sieging cities posed a unique challenge. Mongol horse archers were unparalleled in open field battles, but fortified cities with tall walls and well-supplied defenders were a different story. In these situations, traditional tactics could stall, and long sieges were costly both in time and resources. So, Genghis Khan knew that outwitting his enemies was often more effective than trying to overpower them directly. One notable example of Mongol ingenuity took place during the siege of Samarkand. In 1220, Samarkand, a major city in what is now Uzbekistan, was one of the wealthiest and most well-defended cities of the Khwarezmian Empire. Despite the strength of his forces, Genghis Khan faced the daunting challenge of taking the city, which boasted heavily fortified walls and a large defending army. But Genghis Khan was no stranger to overcoming difficult odds. He employed various tactics, from fake retreats to luring enemy forces out of their defenses. However, what really caught historians' attention was the extraordinary use of cats and birds to bring the defenders to their knees. During the siege, Genghis Khan sent a message to the city's leaders, offering to spare their lives if they would surrender. As a token of their submission, all he asked for was 1,000 cats and 10,000 birds from the city. The defenders, believing this to be a strange yet harmless demand, obliged. After all, what harm could come from giving away animals? But Genghis Khan had a clever plan. Once he received the cats and birds, his soldiers tied small pieces of cloth to their tails. These cloths were set on fire, and the animals were released back into the city. Terrified and in pain, the cats and birds fled to the only place they knew as home, the city. As they ran and flew into Samarkand, the flaming cloths set the city ablaze. Fires broke out across the city, causing chaos and confusion among the defenders. In the panic, the Mongol army seized the opportunity to launch a coordinated attack. The fires weakened the city's defenses, as the defenders were too preoccupied with the flames and chaos. The Mongols capitalized on the confusion, breaking through the walls and taking Samarkand in one of the most ingenious and unorthodox military maneuvers in history. This story is not just about the use of animals. It showcases the psychological warfare that Genghis Khan was known for. The city's defenders likely thought they were being clever by agreeing to the unusual demand for cats and birds, never realizing that they were playing right into Genghis Khan's hands. It's a testament to his ability to outthink his enemies at every turn. This tactic also demonstrates his understanding of how to use fear and confusion to his advantage. When faced with cities that were difficult to breach, Genghis Khan often resorted to deception and psychological pressure. By spreading rumors, staging false retreats, or, as we've seen, setting cities on fire with animals, he would instill fear in the hearts of his enemies, making them easier to conquer. The story of the cats and birds is just one of many examples of Genghis Khan's innovative approach to warfare. He was a master of using deception. The Mongols would sometimes feign retreat during a battle, only to turn around and ambush their pursuing enemies. This tactic was used to devastating effect in numerous battles. Another favored trick was the use of fake camps and false troop movements to trick their enemies into thinking they were facing a larger force than they actually were. The Mongols were also skilled at gathering intelligence. They used spies to infiltrate enemy cities, learn about their weaknesses, and report back with valuable information. This, combined with their speed and mobility, allowed the Mongols to plan their attacks with precision. The conquest of Samarkand was a key victory for Genghis Khan, but it was only one chapter in his broader campaign to build the Mongol Empire. His ability to think outside the box, as demonstrated by the use of cats and birds, is one of the many reasons his empire became so vast and enduring. His legacy as a brilliant military strategist continues to be studied by historians and military experts today. While the story of the cats and birds might seem strange, it highlights an essential truth. Genghis Khan understood that warfare was not just about brute force. It was about outsmarting your opponent. His ability to adapt to any situation and use whatever resources were available to him, no matter how unconventional, is what set him apart as one of the greatest military leaders in history. Genghis Khan's use of 1,000 cats and birds to conquer Samarkand is a prime example of the importance of creativity and adaptability in warfare. It's also a reminder that sometimes the most surprising solutions are the most effective. From his innovative tactics to his psychological warfare, Genghis Khan's military genius remains unparalleled. Have you ever wondered how Genghis Khan became the beast of the East, feared and revered across Asia and Europe? Most know the story of the ruthless warlord who conquered vast lands and forged an empire that spanned continents. But there's a lesser-known aspect of this story that remains hidden in the pages of history: the role his daughters played in his meteoric rise. They weren't just passive onlookers or political pawns. They were power brokers, diplomats, and military strategists in their own right. Join me as we dive into the lives of Genghis Khan's formidable daughters and explore how their influence helped shape one of the largest empires the world has ever known. Could it be that without them, Genghis Khan's empire wouldn't have reached such staggering heights? To truly understand the significance of Genghis Khan's daughters, we must first look at the role women played in Mongol society. At first glance, the Mongol Empire might seem like a male-dominated society, with its warriors and generals claiming the spotlight. Women were often relegated to domestic roles, expected to care for the household, raise children, and manage family affairs. However, behind this facade, Mongol women had far more influence and freedom than many of their contemporaries in other parts of the world. The nomadic lifestyle of the Mongols required all members of society to contribute, including women. When the men went off to war, women often took on leadership roles within the tribe, managing livestock, overseeing trade, and ensuring the stability of their communities. This pragmatic approach gave Mongol women a certain level of autonomy and respect, and Genghis Khan's daughters took full advantage of this. They weren't content with just managing the home front. They stepped onto the political stage, becoming indispensable to their father's ambitions. One of the key ways Genghis Khan's daughters extended their influence was through marriage. However, these were no ordinary marriages. Unlike many women of the time who were used as pawns in political alliances, Genghis Khan's daughters actively participated in shaping these unions. Their marriages were meticulously crafted to expand their father's empire, secure critical alliances, and open up new trade routes. For example, Toragine, wife of Genghis Khan's eldest son Joki, was not only a dutiful spouse, but a skilled diplomat. She navigated the treacherous waters of tribal politics, making crucial alliances between warring factions and rival tribes. Toragine's intelligence and diplomatic acumen were so impressive that even Genghis Khan often consulted her on matters of state, recognizing that her insight was indispensable to the empire's stability. Perhaps even more fascinating is the story of Alakai Beki, one of Genghis Khan's most influential daughters. Married to the ruler of the Ongat tribe, Alakai wielded power unimaginable for women of her time. She negotiated trade agreements, gathered intelligence on rival states, and even commanded armies in battle. Her strategic mind and fearlessness in combat earned her the title of Woman of the Golden Seat, a symbol of her unparalleled authority. In a time when women were often seen as little more than tokens in political games, Alakai Beki proved that she was a key player in expanding the Mongol Empire. Then there's the intriguing story of Gyuzil, another of Genghis Khan's daughters, who married into the powerful Khwarezmian dynasty. This marriage, like so many others orchestrated by Genghis Khan, was intended to secure a strong alliance between the Mongols and the Khwarezmians. However, when Gyuzil's husband betrayed the alliance and turned against Genghis Khan, she found herself in a precarious position. Rather than retreat, Gyuzil took matters into her own hands. Using her intimate knowledge of the Khwarezmian military and her father's army strategies, She provided the Mongols with critical intelligence that allowed them to outmaneuver and defeat her husband's forces. This not only saved the Mongol Empire from a potentially devastating defeat, but also solidified Gyuzil's place as a loyal and resourceful daughter who had inherited her father's shrewdness. Perhaps one of the most pivotal moments that highlight the influence of Genghis Khan's daughters occurred during the Mongol campaign against the Tangut Empire. At a time when the Mongol forces were locked in a stalemate, it was Genghis Khan's daughter, Alakai Beki, who devised a strategy that would break the deadlock. Faced with a complex and fortified enemy, Alakai Beki persuaded her father to adopt a new approach, using siege warfare tactics that were relatively new to the Mongols. Her advice not only led to the defeat of the Tangut Empire, but also showcased her ability to think critically under pressure. This victory became a turning point in the Mongol Empire's expansion and a testament to the pivotal role Genghis Khan's daughters played in shaping the Mongol military machine. So, were Genghis Khan's daughters the true architects behind his legendary empire? It's clear that they were far more than just figures behind the scenes. Their intelligence, diplomatic prowess, and willingness to defy societal expectations were critical in securing alliances, brokering peace, and even leading armies into battle. While history often celebrates Genghis Khan's military conquests, it's his daughters who helped ensure those victories had lasting impacts. Without them, the Mongol Empire might not have reached the heights that it did. They provided stability, insight, and leadership when the empire needed it most, leaving a legacy that has inspired generations of women, even in today's world. The daughters of Genghis Khan defied the norms of their time, proving that intelligence and strategy know no gender. They played a crucial role in shaping the Mongol Empire, and without them, history might have remembered Genghis Khan very differently. These women were warriors, diplomats, and power brokers, helping turn their father into the beast of the East that we know today.
Join me as I dive into the life of Kublai Khan and challenge myself to uncover how one man conquered China and changed the course of history. Kublai Khan's journey from a Mongolian warrior to the ruler of the vast Yuan dynasty is nothing short of remarkable. His story is filled with power struggles, military brilliance, and cultural transformation, making him one of the most fascinating figures in world history. Kublai Khan was born into a family of legendary warriors. As the grandson of Genghis Khan, he grew up in the shadow of his grandfather's incredible conquests. But Kublai's path to greatness was not straightforward. The Mongol Empire was in constant flux, with various tribes and family members vying for control. Kublai faced fierce opposition, not just from rival factions, but also from within his own family. His brothers and cousins often challenged his leadership, doubting whether he could maintain the empire's unity and its traditions of military supremacy. Despite these challenges, Kublai proved to be a master strategist and diplomat. He understood that leading the Mongol Empire required not only military prowess, but also political wisdom. Using a delicate balance of diplomacy and force, he managed to unite the fractured Mongol tribes under his rule. This unification was a pivotal moment, as it allowed Kublai to consolidate his power and set his sights on even greater ambitions. Kublai's main goal was the conquest of China, which had long eluded the Mongols. The southern Chinese dynasties, particularly the Song dynasty, were powerful and well-organized, making them formidable opponents. The Song dynasty had sophisticated defenses, a strong military, and a deeply rooted bureaucracy that resisted foreign domination. Kublai knew that defeating the Song would require more than brute force. It would take years of planning, tactical brilliance, and an understanding of Chinese society and culture. Kublai spent years waging war against the Song dynasty, using his military genius to outmaneuver and outsmart his enemies. His strategies included not just traditional Mongol cavalry tactics, but also the use of advanced siege weapons and even naval warfare. This adaptability and innovation were key to his eventual success. After years of relentless campaigns, Kublai finally brought the Song dynasty to its knees, unifying China under Mongol rule for the first time in centuries. This victory marked the beginning of the Yuan dynasty, with Kublai Khan as its emperor. But Kublai's achievements went far beyond the battlefield. He was a visionary leader who recognized that conquering a country wasn't enough. You had to win the hearts and minds of the people. Kublai adopted many aspects of Chinese culture, integrating Mongol and Chinese traditions into his new empire. He introduced reforms to the Chinese administrative system, blending Mongolian methods with the sophisticated bureaucracy of the Chinese dynasties. This helped stabilize his rule and made it easier to govern such a vast and diverse territory. One of Kublai's most significant contributions was his promotion of trade and commerce. Under his leadership, China became a hub of international trade, particularly along the Silk Road. Kublai developed a vast network of roads, canals, and postal systems that connected different parts of the empire, facilitating the movement of goods, people, and ideas. This trade network not only enriched the Yuan dynasty, but also helped to spread Chinese culture and innovations across Asia and into Europe. Kublai Khan also valued cultural exchange and intellectual pursuits. He welcomed foreign scholars, traders, and artists to his court, including the famous Venetian traveler Marco Polo, whose accounts of Kublai's empire fascinated Europe. During his reign, the arts and sciences flourished. The capital city of Dadu, modern-day Beijing, became a center of learning and culture where Chinese, Mongol, and foreign traditions merged. This era saw great developments in literature, painting, and architecture, much of it sponsored by Kublai himself. Yet, Kublai Khan's legacy is not without controversy. While he brought about an era of prosperity and cultural flourishing, he also ruled with an iron fist. His military campaigns, especially in China, were often brutal, and the cost of his conquest was immense in terms of human suffering. Cities were destroyed, populations were displaced, and countless lives were lost in the wars of conquest. His rule may have brought unity to China, but it came at a heavy price. Despite the complexities of his legacy, Kublai Khan's influence on China and the world cannot be overstated. He transformed China into a global center of trade and culture, integrating Mongol and Chinese traditions in ways that still resonate today. The Yuan dynasty, though short-lived, left a lasting impact on Chinese governance, economics, and society. Kublai Khan's vision of a multi-ethnic, culturally diverse empire laid the foundation for future dynasties and reshaped China's role on the world stage. Kublai Khan's life is a story of ambition, innovation, and transformation. He not only conquered vast territories, but also changed the way China interacted with the rest of the world. His ability to blend the military might of the Mongols with the cultural sophistication of the Chinese made him one of history's most unique and influential rulers.
Today, we embark on the Sun Wukong's legendary tale. The infamous Monkey King, known for his wild antics, divine strength, and cunning intellect, faces his ultimate test. As the mystical realms teeter on the brink of destruction, Wukong's courage and wisdom will be pushed to their limits in this epic journey. Will he emerge victorious, or will this be the end of his adventures? Wukong, the iconic hero of Chinese mythology, has been revered for centuries. His power, wit, and tenacity have made him a fan favorite, not just in ancient stories but also in modern gaming and media. Today, we dive into a never-before-told chapter, the final showdown between Wukong and a malevolent force known only as the Shadow. This is no ordinary foe. This ancient evil threatens to consume the balance of the universe. And only Wukong, with his legendary weapon and unbreakable spirit, stands in its way. The journey begins as a ripple of darkness spreads across the mystical realm. The Shadow, a force as old as time itself, awakens, bringing with it an army of sinister creatures and corrupted spirits. Its goal? To overthrow the celestial order and plunge the universe into chaos. Wukong is tasked by the Jade Emperor to confront this threat, but the path ahead is treacherous. As Wukong sets out, he faces an inner struggle. This is not just a physical challenge, but one that will test his wisdom and morals. Along the way, he must battle powerful foes, solve riddles, and unravel mysteries that challenge his very understanding of right and wrong. The first leg of Wukong's journey leads him to the Eastern Mountains, where he must confront the Demon King, a twisted being infused with the essence of the shadow. The Demon King, armed with the power of darkness, taunts Wukong with visions of failure and doubt. But the Monkey King, with his Rui Jingu Bang in hand, counters with his signature wit and strength. After a fierce battle, Wukong triumphs, but he realizes this was only the beginning. The true power of the shadow still lies ahead. As the quest continues, Wukong traverses scorching deserts and hidden jungles. Along the way, he meets the Dream Weavers, beings who manipulate reality through illusions. They test his mind, forcing Wukong to face his deepest fears, but ultimately he outsmarts them, gaining their reluctant respect. To stand a chance against the shadow, Wukong must also form unlikely alliances. The Dragon Empress, ruler of the skies, initially refuses to help, harboring a deep Wukong due to his chaotic past. But through a show of humility and honesty, Wukong earns her support. They rally an army of celestial beings to face the shadow. In the heart of the shadow's stronghold, Wukong, revealed to be an ancient force of balance gone awry, offers Wukong a choice: absorb its power and rule over the universe, or into an uncertain future. This moment is critical, not just for Wukong, but for the entire mystical realm. Wukong contemplates the weight of his decision. Should he take the easy path of ultimate power, or trust in the resilience of the universe to rebuild without the shadow? After a tense internal struggle, Wukong chooses the path of hope and destruction, shattering the shadow's essence and restoring the universe. With the shadow vanquished and the realm saved, Wukong emerges transformed. The final journey has not just tested his wisdom, humility, and capacity for change. The once mischievous trickster is now a true hero, respected not just for his strength, but for his heart. In this tale, Wukong's journey becomes a metaphor for resilience, growth, and the power of choice. His fate and triumphed, not through brute force alone, but through the understanding that true strength lies in knowing when to fight and when to let go. What do you think Wukong's finally find peace, or is another adventure lurking just beyond the horizon? In the comments. And if you want to see more stories of legendary heroes and epic journeys, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Stay tuned for more epic tales and mythological mysteries.
Join me as I dive deep into the world of mythology and challenge myself to uncover the fascinating stories of Hades, the god of the underworld. Hades, the Greek god of the underworld and lord of the dead, is one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented figures in mythology. Often viewed as a villain, a monstrous figure who delights in the suffering of others. But is this really an accurate portrayal of the god who rules? Let's start by addressing some of the biggest misconceptions surrounding Hades. And one of the main reasons for this skewed perception is the ways portrayed in popular culture. In many movies, TV shows, and even comic books, Hades is frequently depicted as a one-dimensional villain, a character obsessed with causing chaos and destruction. But as we'll soon discover, this couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, Hades is a complex character with a rich history and a deep sense of responsibility. He's not just a god of death. He's also a god of wealth, often referred to as Platon, due to the riches buried beneath the earth, ruling over the treasures of the underworld. Hades is more than just a fearsome deity. He's a just and fair ruler, respected and even admired by his fellow gods. So, where does the idea of Hades being evil come from? In Greek mythology, Hades is often seen as a neutral figure, primarily concerned with maintaining the balance and order of the universe. His role in ensuring the proper functioning of life and death is one of duty and responsibility, not malice. Let's rewind and explore the origin. Born to the Titans Cronus and Rhea, he was one of the original Olympian brothers Zeus and Poseidon. After the defeat of their father Cronus, and the three brothers drew lots to determine who would rule. Zeus became the ruler of the sky, Poseidon the ruler of the seas, and Hades, perhaps the least fortunate, drew the underworld. But rather than seeing this as a curse, Hades accepted his fate with dignity, ruling over his domain with a stern, yet fair hand. As the ruler of the underworld and the dead, his domain, often referred to as Hades itself, was a realm where souls of the departed went after death. Unlike the later traditions, the Greek underworld was a much more nuanced place. Here, Hades was surrounded by a host of iconic figures and creatures that helped maintain the order of the realm. There's Cerberus, the infamous three-headed dog who guarded the gates of the underworld. Then there's Charon, the boatman who ferried souls across the river Styx, and the Erinyes or Furies, avenging spirits tasked with punishing those who dared disturb the natural order. Despite his dark and ominous associations, Hades was not devoid of emotion or humanity. One of the most famous and emotionally charged myths surrounding Hades is the story of his relationship with Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, goddess of. The story begins when Hades, struck by love, abducts Persephone and brings her to the underworld to become his queen. Demeter's grief over her daughter's abduction was so intense that she refused to allow crops to grow, plunging the world into famine. The gods intervened, and a compromise was made. Persephone would spend part of the year with her mother and part with her husband, Hades. This myth, while often seen as a dark tale of abduction, can also be seen as an exploration of the balance between life and death, growth and decay. Persephone's descent to the underworld symbolizes the winter months, while her return to Earth heralds the springtime and the rebirth of life. The myth of Persephone also reveals a more tender side of Hades. His love for her was deep and genuine, and while his method of obtaining her may be viewed as troubling by modern standards in the ancient world, it was seen as part of the inevitable cycle of life and death. The compromise reached between Hades and Zeus over Persephone's time on Earth also illustrates Hades' role as a negotiator and mediator among the gods, not simply a figure of terror. So, if Hades isn't the villain many stories make him out to be, what kind of god is he? Above all, Hades is a figure of immense power and responsibility. His role as the ruler of the dead is crucial to the functioning of the natural world. He ensures that the dead stay in their realm, and he governs the vast riches of the earth, from gold and silver to more symbolic forms of wealth. His fairness and dedication to his role earned him the respect of the other gods, and while he may not have been as beloved as his brothers Zeus and Poseidon, he was certainly not feared as an evil being. In fact, Hades is often described as a god who values justice, showing mercy to those who deserve it and punishing those who do not. One final myth worth mentioning